We're going to get started. Please take your seats. Good afternoon, buenas tardes, and welcome to our April 25th board business meeting. Welcome to our board members, MCPS staff, and members of our community who are joining us here in person and who are watching via live stream. And I see some of our students here also today celebrating Take Your Child to Work Day. So welcome to our students as well. Now let us begin the meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will call the roll to recognize board members and establish that we have a quorum.
Hello, everybody. Sammy Saeed, student member of the board. First, want to say happy Take Your Child to Work Day. And I'm also very excited to be at this board meeting, which has the chance to possibly be one of the last board meetings we have in this actual physical boardroom, which I think is really exciting. So I just want to express my excitement around that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shebra Evans, District 4. Good to see you.
Good afternoon. Rebecca Smondrowski, District 2.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lynn Harris, I use she, her pronouns, and it's very nice to see you all today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brenda Wolf, District 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes, Grace Rivera Oben, District 1.
Good afternoon, Julie Yang, District 3. Welcome. Good to see everyone.
And I'm Carla Silvestre, President of the board, and we are joined by Mr. Henry Johnson today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now we will begin the meeting with the approval of the revised agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous. Okay, so today we have, we'll move on to something different. To an announcement of the April 19th, 2024 opinion of the Open Meetings Compliance Board. The Board of Education recently received an opinion from the Open Meetings Compliance Board dated April 19th, 2024. The Compliance Board found that violations of the Open Meetings Act occurred in connection with the board's January 22nd, 2024 closed session. The Compliance Board found that the Board of Education's meeting notice was deficient because it failed to adequately provide notice to the public that an open meeting would take place prior to the closed session, during which the board would vote to go into closed session. Because the inadequate notice effectively closed the meeting from the start, the Compliance Board found that the board did not provide the public an opportunity to object to closure. Finally, the Compliance Board found that the board failed to make an agenda for the January 22nd meeting available to the public. A copy of the Compliance Board opinion is currently being circulated for the board members to sign in accordance with Section 3-211A2. So I will sign it now myself, and thank you for bearing with us. This is part of the process. We can now move on to agenda item number 3, the Human Resources and Development Report. Can I get a motion to move the report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that is unanimous. I pass it on to Dr. Johnson for the resolutions.
So thank you, Ms. Silvestri and members of the board. Today we have 3 resolutions. One is regarding staff members. Whereas the death of February 19th, 2024 of Ms. Terry D. Johnson, principal of Lake Seneca Elementary School, has deeply saddened the staff and students and members of the Board of Education. And whereas during her more than 34 years with Montgomery County Public Schools, Ms. Johnson was a dedicated and compassionate leader who is remembered for her student-centered approach to education. She prioritized the academic success of all students and contributed to the overall success of the school community. And whereas Ms. Johnson exemplified a demeanor of politeness and honesty, particularly in difficult situations. She was a dedicated professional with a keen interest in lifelong learning, inspiring both students and staff. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education and the interim superintendent of schools express their sorrow at the death of Ms. Johnson and extend deepest sympathy to her family. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the family of Ms. Johnson.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Thank you. The second resolution is for the death of Ms. Ada Martin. The death of Ms. Martin on May 1st, 2024, special education bus attendant in the Department of Transportation, has deeply saddened the staff, students, and members of the Board of Education. And whereas during the 17 years that Ms. Martin worked for Montgomery County Public Schools, she was committed to the safety and success of the students on her route, and she ensured that students arrived at school on time and ready to learn. And whereas Ms. Martin created a positive and safe environment for students as they traveled to and from school, she consistently demonstrated her exceptional commitment to their well-being and education. Ms. Martin genuinely cared about students and expressed this to those who rode her bus every day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education and the interim superintendent of schools express their sorrow at the death of Ms. Martin and extend deepest sympathy to her family. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution will be forwarded to the family of Ms. Martin.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
And then our final resolution, whereas the death on March 10th, 2024 of Mr. Gene Smith, special education teacher at Roberta Clemente Middle School, deeply saddened the staff, students, and members of the Board of Education. And whereas during more than 31 years of service to Montgomery County Public Schools, Mr. Smith dedicated himself to providing high-quality and challenging instruction to his students. He always maintained a positive and productive classroom environment and was full of joy when working with students and staff. Mr. Smith was committed to the growth and success of all of his students. And whereas Mr. Smith successfully implemented equitable classroom practices to enhance student engagement, he made necessary adjustments in his teaching style to address the unique learning needs of each student. Moreover, he consistently motivated his students, highlighting the significance of teamwork and assisted them in establishing personal connections to their coursework. Now, therefore, be it resolved that members of the Board of Education and the interim superintendent of schools express their sorrow at the death of Mr. Smith and extend deepest sympathy to his family, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the family of Mr. Smith.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous. Okay. Johnson, moving on to the recommended appointments.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. So today we have 3 appointments. The first of our appointments is Dr. Peter O. Moran, Chief of School Support and Wellbeing in the Office of School Support and Wellbeing and the Office of the Deputy Superintendent. Joining Dr. Moran today is his wife, Kathleen, sons Luke, and Mackie, and his father, Neil. Dr. Moran has been employed with Montgomery County Public Schools for 20 years as a teacher, assistant principal, principal intern, principal, director, associate superintendent, and currently as acting chief of school support and well-being. Dr. Moran looks forward to continuing to work alongside an exceptional administrative support staff, a knowledgeable group of instructional specialists, and a talented and deeply committed team of directors and associate superintendents to support and serve outstanding school leaders, to deliver on the promise of public education, providing learning opportunities that honor the individual strengths and needs of students, and so they can achieve at their highest level possible. Shout outs to his mentor, Don Kress, who we all know well, and to his mother, who will always be the angel on his shoulder.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Next, Ms. Kelly A. Bean, Supervisor, Secondary Mathematics Office, Office of Curriculum and Instructional Programs, in the Office of the Chief Academic Officer and the Officer of the Deputy Superintendent. Joining her today is her husband, Matthew Schmidt, her father, Michael, stepmother, Patricia, and her current principal, Mrs. Ann B. Dolan Rinder. Ms. Bean has been employed with MCPS for 19 years as a substitute teacher, a content specialist, assistant school administrator, and currently as the assistant principal at Gaithersburg Middle School. She looks forward to joining the Secondary Mathematics Office, where she will ensure equitable access and outcomes for all students across the district by providing the best support to each school community and its stakeholders.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous. Congratulations.
And our final appointment, recommended appointment, is Mr. Daniel P. Miller as the principal of Ridgeview Middle School. Joining him today is his wife, Victoria, and daughters, Paisley, Lucy, and Cameron. Mr. Miller has been employed with MCPS for 12 years as a substitute teacher, staff development teacher, and currently as assistant principal, Rocky Hill Middle School. Mr. Miller is excited to join the Ridgeview Middle School community, and he looks forward to working side by side with his staff to foster a positive learning environment and to ensure all students feel a sense of belonging while maximizing student achievement. Shout outs to his parents, Beth and Rob, and his brother Jason, who are watching online.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, we are now moving on to agenda item number 4, recognitions. Again, I ask Dr. Johnson to proceed. Pass that back to Elsie so I don't get confused with it. It's what we signed. Go ahead.
So, Ms. Silvestri, members of the board, we would like to recognize several groups this month. The first is our Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas education is the process by which one generation imparts knowledge and fosters critical thinking skills so that the next generation may develop a command of the learning as well as passion for expressing ideas, solving problems and understanding new viewpoints. And whereas teachers open students' minds to the magic of ideas, knowledge, and dreams. And whereas teachers tirelessly work to serve our students and communities with care and professionalism, filling many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors. And whereas the Board of Education wishes to recognize publicly all of the ways that teachers contribute to the lives of students, and whereas the Board of Education encourages families and schools to show teachers the appreciation they so richly deserve. And whereas the Board of Education thanks its teachers for their contributions to excellence in education, now therefore be it resolved that Teacher Appreciation Week be observed by the school system during the week of May 6th to 10th, 2024, and be it further resolved that Tuesday, May 7th, be designated as Teacher Appreciation Day in Montgomery County Public Schools.
Move approval.
And on behalf of all the fantastic teachers that I've had throughout my school career, I proudly second that motion.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
National Bike to School Day. Whereas National Bike to School Day has been celebrated for more than 20 years in communities while raising awareness of traffic rules, increasing physical activity, and raising neighborhood awareness to share the road with cyclists. And whereas biking to school contributes to a healthier planet by reducing the amount of air pollutants emitted by automobiles, and whereas the ability of people to safely bicycle is a vital part of the health and well-being of our children, our communities, and the nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Education and the Interim Superintendent of Schools proclaim May 8th, 2024 as Bike to School Day, and be it further resolved that the school system notify the public and school community of Bike to School Day, publicize this resolution and the school system's participation through internal and external communications, encourage everyone to consider the safety of pedestrians and, in particular, student bicyclists and walkers every day.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
We would also like to recognize Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Whereas Asian Pacific immigrants began migrating to Maryland in the 1800s, and whereas in the 16th century, Filipino and later Hawaiian and Chinese maritime traders began exploring what would become California, Oregon, Washington, and the American Southwest, while South Asian shipworkers began coming to New England for trade in the 1700s. And whereas the commemoration of Asian Pacific Americans began as a celebratory week known as Asian Pacific American Heritage Week in 1978 and was extended in 1990 to the official designation of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And whereas Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders have made invaluable contributions to American culture and society in various aspects, including apparel, ceramics, music, cuisine, public service, sports, law, technology, and numerous other fields. And whereas Asian Americans have faced anti-Asian speech and acts targeted by individuals and the federal government through the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, Filipino Repatriation Act of 1935, Executive Order 9066, and the United States wars with Korea and Japan. And whereas Montgomery County Schools is committed to including the history and experiences of Asian Pacific Americans into its curricula to foster understanding, empathy, and support for Asian Pacific students and families. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Education and the Interim Superintendent of Schools hereby declare the month of May 2024 to be Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and encourage staff, students, parents, guardians, and the community to actively honor the courage and contributions of Asian Pacific Americans in Montgomery County, the state, and the nation, and enhance awareness of the impact of attitudes and expectations of the achievement of Asian American Pacific Islander students.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
We would also like to recognize Jewish American Heritage Month. Whereas National Jewish American Heritage Month is a time for all Americans to recognize and celebrate the contributions of Jewish Americans have made to American history, culture, and society, and whereas the first Jewish American community with supporting institutions was established in Maryland in 1825. The expansion of more communities were founded after Maryland passed a law in 1826 allowing Jews to hold public office without submitting to a Christian oath. And whereas Jewish Americans have faced anti-Semitism through discrimination, hate speech, and hate acts from colonial times to the present, and whereas Jewish American individuals and organizations work diligently to end anti-Semitism through advocacy and education in schools and society, and whereas Jewish Americans have made significant contributions to American culture in the fields of science, music, art, education, business, government, medicine, social justice, and numerous others, and whereas Montgomery County Public Schools is committed to educating students about Jewish American history and addressing anti-Semitism in the schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Education and the interim superintendent of schools hereby declare the month of May 2024 to be Jewish American Heritage Month and encourage staff, students, parents, guardians, and the community to actively honor and celebrate the contributions and courage of Jewish Americans in Montgomery County, the state, and the nation, and enhance awareness of the impact of attitudes and expectations on the achievement of Jewish American students.
Good timing. Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
And finally, Pupil Personnel Worker Month. Whereas the month of May 2024 has been designated as Pupil Personnel Worker Month to recognize pupil personnel workers for demonstrating unique, complex problem-solving skills to address the challenges faced by all students and families to deliver targeted outreach and support so all students can experience positive physical, social, and psychological well-being to be successful in college, career, and the community. And whereas the Maryland Association of Pupil Personnel encourages all Maryland systems to recognize pupil personnel workers with their knowledge and experience in student wellness, obstacles to student attendance, and barriers faced by parents as professional, highly skilled in identifying the needs of students and families and connecting them with school system and community resources. And whereas pupil personnel workers are specialists trained to consider and assess the needs of the student and serve as the school's liaison with the family and community agencies to foster students' physical, psychological, and intellectual growth. And whereas pupil personnel workers as collaborative problem solvers uniquely are capable of analyzing and monitoring student data and suggesting school-wide and individual interventions to improve student performance. And whereas it is important that Montgomery County Public Schools recognize the vital role pupil personnel workers play in the ongoing support of students, families, and communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Education and the interim superintendent of schools hereby declare May 2024 as Pupil Personnel Worker Month in Montgomery County Public Schools and encourage staff, students, parents, and caregivers, and the community to celebrate and recognize our pupil personnel workers for their dedicated service to education.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestri.
Thank you. I now also have a recognition statement. The election for the student member of the Board of Education for the 2024-25 school year was held on April 17th. With more than 58,000 MCPS students casting their ballots, Clarksburg High School Junior Pernille Savannah received 53% of the vote, with Montgomery Blair High School Junior Samantha Ross in the audience receiving 47% of the vote. Mr. Savannah will begin his term on July 1st, 2024. Congratulations to Pernille and congratulations to Samantha. Well done. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. Public comments is one of our opportunities to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. Board members will take your comments into consideration, but it is not our practice to take action at this time on issues that are raised. We encourage public input on policy, program, and practices. This is not the proper avenue to address specific student or employee matters, so we encourage everyone to utilize existing avenues of redress for complaints. This is a public meeting, and we expect the conduct of all speakers and members of the audience to be within the bounds of proper etiquette. Inappropriate personal remarks, rude retorts, or other such behavior is out of order and will not be tolerated. Those who demonstrate disruptive or disrespectful behavior during public comments may be asked to leave the room. Please check our website for information about upcoming board meetings, hearings, and work sessions, including any changes to our meeting start times. Today, we have 14 people signed up to provide in-person testimony. Each speaker will receive 2 minutes for comments. When your name is called, please approach the table, speak clearly and directly into the microphone. 30 seconds prior to the expiration of a speaker's time, a yellow light will go on, accompanied by a beep. A red light and a buzzer signals that your time has expired. Please push the flat button below the microphone to turn it on and begin speaking. Push the same button once more at the sound of the buzzer to turn it off. In addition to our in-person speakers today, we have 6 people signed up to provide video and audio testimonies. We will play these submissions once the in-person testimonies have concluded. Copies of testimonies can be found on our website in Board Docs, where they are posted with the other materials for this meeting. So let's get started by having our first 3 speakers please come forward. Matilda DeCos, Azira Presco, and Lopilato. You'll correct me if I mispronounced your name. Matilda, you may begin.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Matilda DeCos, and I'm a 10th grade student at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I'm a member of Sunrise BCC, a youth-led or environmental group. I'm here today as an advocate for the Green New Deal for Schools resolution. I'm scared about what future children, including what my future children, will face once the damage is irreversible. For me, the looming specter of climate change is more than just a distant concern. It is a haunting situation that I know will not disappear without tackling it head-on. I'm excited about this resolution because it would foster actual change in our school system rather than empty words. I'm here to share my perspective as a student who has spent 11 years in the Montgomery County public school system as to why we desperately need this change. We must adapt the kindergarten through 12th grade curriculum so that students can learn what we can do to help our climate rather than only learning about the problems. When I was in 4th grade, we learned about pollution by killing fish that we raised in plastic bottles. I exposed my 2 fish, Bubbles and Ticonderoga, to road salt per my teacher's instruction. I cried as my dead fish floated to the top of the bright blue water. All we learned from this lesson was that pollution equals bad and recycling equals good. We didn't learn about alternatives to harmful chemicals, and we didn't learn how to reduce pollution in our daily lives. I felt nothing but helplessness. The reality is that it is not too late, and there are things that we can do. Our students are our future lawmakers, teachers, scientists, and engineers, and we need to encourage a mindset where they believe they can help solve the climate crisis. For example, at the Thomas Edison program, we could give students an opportunity to specialize in clean energy installation. For Project Lead the Way engineering students, like myself, MCPS could offer a course on renewable energy. It is not enough for us to simply feel depressed about the state of our planet. We need solutions. It is our future and we deserve to have a voice in it. We ask you to show you too care about the climate by adopting the Green New Deal for Schools resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Zara?
Good afternoon. My name is Azaria and I attend Northwood. I am a current member of Northwood's MSA, Muslim Student Association, along with many other organizations. I want to address the fact that MSA students have been harassed and staff have been dishonest about the work that MSA has put together throughout this school year. The misinformation that has been spread about our organization has negatively impacted our safety and relationships with our peers as well as staff. No adult who is charged with our education should be allowed to work with kids if they cannot put aside their own personal biases, especially those that are of political nature. Educators' politics should not directly impact my experiences as a student in this school system. For every event the Muslim Student Association at Northwood has hosted, our events are always inclusive towards all students from diverse backgrounds and beliefs, including those of Jewish heritage. Northwood's school community is an international one with students from all walks of life. It is disheartening to see these exact students be treated so harshly for just being Muslim. I also find it extremely disappointing when this type of behavior is expressed by our peers who say, and I quote, "I hope they burn in hell and get buried with the dead Palestinians," which is extremely inappropriate for a learning environment and any environment structured to be welcoming for all. As an active member of MSA, we are not terrorists, and our group should have never been compared to the Ku Klux Klan. How dare anyone make such a comparison? We are student leaders who care about our education and even more how we treat people, even if those same people don't have the heart or maturity to treat us the same. On behalf of the Muslim Student Association, what is the school system doing to address the blatant Islamophobia and hatred that we have experienced expressed by staff and students in our building? Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
Honorable members of the Board of Education, I am Nathan Lopolato, a senior at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I'm here today to discuss making our county more sustainable through the passage of a Green New Deal for MCPS schools. The tenet of this plan that I am most passionate about is providing free Metro Rail access for MCPS students. Many MCPS students rely on public transportation as their main means of transportation. Without free Metro Rail, students must rely on the public bus system, which is significantly less reliable and more time-consuming. Many students miss out on academic and extracurricular opportunities due to the lack of free Metro Rail transportation. Providing free dual enrollment courses to MCPS students was one of the greatest investments MCPS made in student success. However, many students who don't live or go to school near Montgomery College campuses are not able to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. In my experience, I could not take advantage of as many dual enrollment courses as I wanted to because the travel time required by Metrobus meant that I had to take out more travel periods than I was allowed to. The money required to take Metro Rail every day was not feasible. While I have been able to take virtual courses, this learning style does not work for all students, and thus many students are not able to take advantage of the dual enrollment opportunities that MCPS provides. Aside from equity-based reasons, Montgomery County should pursue free Metro Rail because it will help us meet our sustainability goals by providing students with an efficient, free alternative to driving. Free Metro Rail is essential to the sustainability and equity goals of MCPS, and thus we need to pass a Green New Deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we could have our next three speakers please come forward. Flair Doherty, Madison Riggs, and Anila Shemsu. Flair, you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Flair Doherty, and I'm a sophomore at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I'm here to ask you to pass the Green New Deal for MCPS. I think I speak for myself, my community, and my generation when I say that I am so scared. When I think too much about climate change and the future that we are actively creating, my heart tightens in my chest. And what is making right now so scary? Right now, we're in a very narrow window of time where we're seeing the effects of climate change, but it is not yet irreversible. Still, we are barreling headfirst into a climate disaster, and many of the people with real power don't seem to be willing to stop it. No matter how much I've turned the lights off when I've left the room, composted my extra food waste, or biked to my friend's house after school, none of that stopped 2023 from being the hottest year on record. Individual action alone cannot fix this, despite how critical climate action is right now. What we need is for the people who have the power to work to create lasting change. And that starts here. The Green New Deal is a real change. It is climate disaster plans. It is education pathways, commitments to installing solar panels, sustainable energy use, decarbonization commitments, and preparing the next generation for the world they are inheriting. As of 2022, there were over 1 million people in Montgomery County, 160,000 of them being students. If we choose to act now, we can choose to make the changes needed so that those same students will not inherit a world that is too late to fix. The time has to be now for creating real, lasting changes. I am 16 years old, and I've been told time and time again that our planet is actively being ruined, but it is not too bad yet. It is not too late. Yet. The Green New Deal for MCPS is a gigantic step in the right direction. Let's work to pass the Green New Deal proposal because it doesn't have to be too late. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madison, you may begin. Good evening. My name is Madison Riggs, and I'm a junior at Northwood High School and a member of the Northwood Academy of Music, Theater, and Dance, or AMTAD. I'm here today to ask for your support in funding via the County Council through the CIP program in order to fund the auditorium at the new Woodward High School. For various reasons, an auditorium is an essential community space and an essential part of any high school building, holding from all sorts of events from awards ceremonies, assemblies, general information sessions, and of course providing a vibrant hub for the performing arts. The auditorium remains irreplaceable. Removing a space such as this from any high school cuts down on every single one of these events due to lack of seating and the inevitable loss of sales. Northwood will go from having the largest auditorium currently in MCPS to a black box theater holding less than 150 seats. While the black box theater is a feasible solution for the first year at Woodward, asking us to give up the auditorium space indefinitely is not. For many, high school is a time when people find their niche, their group, and oftentimes the groundwork of the way they will go in life. It is a time in which many start to define the path of success they will be following. Whether that be athletics, student activism, or performing arts, students should be given the space for all. As a fellow AMTAD member, AMTAD, or for me specifically theater, is the highlight of what I do at school. Without theater, I'm not sure where I would be. It is the reason I get up many mornings. It is why I stay on top of my assignments to continue being eligible. It has opened me up not only to an incredible community and support system, but also to impactful life lessons and experiences. Theater and AMTAB have prepared me for the world by teaching me how to work with a team, push through challenges, and put myself out there. I would be lost without theater. It's more than just a club, it's a passion and a life-changing experience. I am who I am today because of these programs. I'm pursuing the future goals I am today because of my time in these programs. When I look back to my formative years, I will not remember my classes and assignments. I will remember the energetic and exhilarating feeling of being backstage on opening night. I will remember the honorable people I've gotten to meet and the amazing relationships I have formed. A lack of auditorium limits every student to this experience, which is inherently unfair. Thank you. Thank you. Anila?
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education. My name is Anila Shamsu, and I'm a senior at Wooten High School. Last week, the entire Wooten community was rattled by the unsettling news about a school shooting threat. On March 4th, Stone Mill Elementary staff received an email instructing them to call 911 if the suspect were to be spotted on school grounds. Wooten staff received no such email. The student who caused the threat was known by many people of our school and would have easily been invited onto school grounds. This is why I'm calling for an unequivocal enforcement of the school safety resolution as quickly as possible. Student ID scanners must, not should, be in place at every school to ensure the security of our campuses starting this fall. Additionally, I'm calling for the restructuring of the School Safety and Security at a Glance report. Currently, it only publishes bullying cases if it leads to serious injury or death. According to the FY22 report, Wooten only had 10 confirmed cases of bullying. However, the total number was actually 65 acts of hate, which increased to 166 in FY23. This data is critical in planning for how to best combat discrimination, so it is important to publish detailed and accurate information. Lastly, since October, Muslim students and organizations across the county have been harassed and threatened for speaking up about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Students have been intimidated by assignments listing Palestine as a terrorist nation. I have received assignments from students who have been afraid to speak up. This assignment was sent to me by a student from a high school social studies class. The subject of discussion is terrorism. And underneath the example section for terrorist groups is Uyghurs in China, a predominantly Muslim ethnic group, and Palestinians without any other specification. To classify an entire group of people as terrorists is Islamophobic. It is not my job or the job of any other student to speak up in these sorts of situations when faculty is discriminating students.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I will now ask the next three speakers to please come forward. Jillian Pereno, Sydney Walter, and Bridget Howe. Jillian, may we begin? Oh, one more time. There you go.
Good afternoon, members of the MCPS Board of Education. My name is Jillian Prano, and I am a junior at Springbrook High School. Today, I will be speaking to you about the inequities in our county's academic programs. Although MCPS has given many opportunities for student success and is highly regarded nationwide for the availability of our many different academic programs, we are still lacking in the distribution of these very same programs countywide. I have had the privilege of going to 2 different MCPS high schools where I was able to try out the medical pathway program at Paint Branch and currently take advantage of the International Baccalaureate program at Springbrook. However, many other students like myself don't have the same opportunities. There are only 8 out of the 27 MCPS high schools that offer the IB program, only 1 school that offers the Global Ecology program, only 1 capstone program, and there are many more that I have not listed that aren't readily available to most students at MCPS. As a county, we cannot claim to give our students the equal resources as students have to travel long distances or live in a different zip code to be given the same opportunities as other students in other parts of the county. We cannot claim to be equally preparing our students for success in the future if we cannot equally distribute all these wonderful programs to all areas of the county. We need to open up these resources to our diverse community so we can provide students options and enlighten them on future careers that they may not have even considered before. We need to start expanding the availability of these signature programs to schools across our clusters, and we should provide resources to different middle schools across our different clusters to prepare them for entering these programs. Providing students with many different possibilities sets us up for future success in our careers and collegiate success. After all, aren't we all about college and career readiness? Thank you.
Thank you. Sydney?
Good afternoon, Board of Education. My name is Sydney Walter, and I'm a freshman at Northwood High School. I think everyone knows about Northwood's move to Woodward next year and the construction of the auditorium being indefinitely delayed, but I'm not sure if everyone knows the impact of this decision. I just started at Northwood this year and right away got involved in the dance and theater departments, both of which frequently use our auditorium, in addition to the music department, but it's not just the performing arts department. Our entire school has used the auditorium at some point. While I'm thinking of the entire school, the first group on my mind when I think about our lack of an auditorium is the performing arts program. A little over a month ago, Northwood finished its run of the musical Grease with around 50 people in cast and crew. I was in this production, and although I may be a little biased, I believe that it was an absolutely incredible show, and I've heard many say the same. On closing night, we sold almost 500 tickets and broke box office records. When I thought about that night before, standing on stage with some of my closest friends, listening to the cheers from our biggest crowd yet, I remember how amazing it felt and how big of an impact that moment had on me and my future. When I think about that night now, I think about how I may never get to experience that for the rest of my high school career. During a conversation with my theater teacher and director, he told me that the cast for our shows next year could be no more than around 15 people because there was just no space. Next year, everything will have to be smaller, including our audiences, which means less ticket sales, which means less money going back into our program. Being a part of this program has changed my life so much already in just 1 year that it makes me sad to think that many students won't get to experience what I got to. And that's why I came to speak today, to give you a little more depth to the situation and ask for support from the Board of Education in talking to County Council members about funding for our auditorium.
Thank you.
Well, the Northwood students are a hard act to follow, I will say. But I'm Bridget Howe. I'm here speaking on behalf as a future Northwood parent. Those of us with kids who are going to be impacted by this have been really paying close attention to the decisions that are being made. And just this week, I had the privilege, or last week, had the privilege of leading a very spirited PTSA conversation about what is happening with Northwood at Woodward. And then earlier this week, being part of the inaugural school construction impact team meeting, also about Northwood at Woodward. And I'm here to share some of those concerns. We're excited about coming back to a new building in 2027. It is past due. We're happy that our holding school is a new, bright, shiny facility. But being in a holding school demands a lot of sacrifices from a school community, longer commutes, in this case, an incomplete building, inconvenience for parents, challenges for the building community. And a lot of the MCPS decisions that have happened this year have made it even harder, even more daunting. The construction costs and timelines you've heard about, you know about, and I know that you're looking under the proverbial couch cushions trying to find that CIP funding. I know it. I appreciate that. I just want to urge you to keep doing it. Keep looking. It's vital, as you heard from Sydney. And if it absolutely can't be solved this year, include it in the amend the CIP next year to make sure it's included and get it built as soon as possible. The impact of the lack of fields as well and auditorium means that MCPS must continue the work towards solutions to help the Northwood community make up for the losses in ticket revenue, opportunities to participate, concession sales, et cetera. The community did feel that their needs were not prioritized in a lot of the conversations to date, but we do see positive changes. The skit this week, the skit meeting was wonderful. Thank you to Heather and Kat for being part of leading that and setting the agenda. We also appreciate some of the changes that have already come from MCPS. Michael Lewis, I don't know what he did. He worked miracles at getting that bus schedule changed. 100% appreciate it. But the most important lesson is that MCPS decisions have to be made with communities, not to communities, and we want the remainder of this to be collaborative. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could get the next three speakers to please come forward: Stephanie Schoenthal, Sarah Wong, and Justin Kenny. Stephanie, you may begin.
I work with a unique student group in CREA who face multiple barriers each day. My students have to work for a living to support themselves and their families. For them, working is not a choice, but a necessity to their survival. My students wake up before dawn, often working 10 to 12-hour shifts, and still manage to attend school at night. I feel honored and privileged to work with such motivated students. Contrary to misinformation, the CREA Night program is successful. In fact, each year we break our previous year's records of GED sections passed. Of the students enrolled this school year, 25 passed math, 34 passed science, 41 passed social studies. 21 students passed 3 sections of the GED with only RLA left, and 1 duly enrolled student has earned their GED. CREA Day, however, 4 students passed science, 2 passed social studies, 2 passed math, and 2 students earned their GED. You might ask yourself why there are not more students earning their GED. Studies show it takes 7 years to fully learn a language. Our students only have 1 to 3 years with us. Our class time is extremely limited. Academic classes are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 3 hours each day. That is 9 hours of academic coursework per week. Not to mention the fact that most of our students have had interrupted education and arrive with immense trauma. Also, It is challenging because they must take off work in order to take a test, which directly affects their economic situation. Our program keeps growing each year, yet our staffing remains stagnant. Based on our MOU with the state, our students are counted for funding purposes and are fully enrolled MCPS students. Our students are not receiving access to a fully staffed school. Crea Knight does not have a counselor, special education teacher, social worker, psychologist, financial specialist, cafeteria worker, nurse, nor administration.
Thank you for your testimony. Sarah?
Yes. Hi, my name is Sarah Huang, and today's topic is how to prevent the COVID-19 happening again in Montgomery County. Recently, I found the dangerous media around this area of the school. Students back home with the pink eyes and the sick fever, and have a high volume of the infection. On April 21st, Sunday, at 6 p.m., I found a white van parked at the Kevin John Middle School in front of the cafeteria. Took a look inside the van. There were 4 seats. One is for the driver. One is for next to the drivers was a discarded school age car seat, discarded on the front side of the ground. On these seats full of the trashes. At the back side have two seats. All of them have the school age car seat. At the end of the back were two bags. One is red one with the white words on it, and another one is black. This is kind of the dirty environment for kids. Recently, I found the dogs barking a lot. Before this community have dogs, but I seldom heard any dogs barking. The environment was very quiet. Not recently, a lot of dog barking sounds fierce, and the size of the dog larger. Here was a case of the students be bitten by the dog, but this dog is not belong to this community. So we always have, we also find 50 cars only have 1 car plate. So we hope the board pay attention on this one. And yes.
Thank you. Justin?
Good afternoon and thank you. My name is Justin Kenny, and as you can see, I'm a proud parent of 2 Northwood Gladiators. I'm here to ask that we keep our promise to the many students who are here and the entire Northwood community and go back to the original plan for completing construction at Woodward High School. Your core purpose is to, quote, prepare all students to thrive in their future. And your vision is to, quote, provide the greatest public education to each and every student. That is not what's happening here. We're already asking Northwood students, parents, and community to move to a school that is not ready. It lacks an auditorium for a high school with a proud and accomplished theater and dance academy. My daughter Katie is part of this wonderful community. It lacks athletic fields where my son Jack competes among the best students and the best athletes in the state. We all know how important arts and athletics are to building community in a school. This is not providing the greatest education. And only now we learn that somewhere along the way, the decision was made to further postpone completion of the auditorium and athletic fields at Woodward High School. This is simply not acceptable. And what is so unfortunate is that we're taking what should be a very positive experience, the opportunity to temporarily move into a brand new school, only to return to a permanent brand new school and turning it into a negative experience. It's time to do the right thing for these kids. It's time to give them the, quote, greatest education. And it's time to honor the promise to the Northwood community. We respectfully ask that you go back to the original plan and complete construction of the auditorium and athletic fields at Woodward High School on time as promised. Our kids deserve the same opportunity as their peers across MCPS. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Our final 2 in-person speakers are Jackson Hawkins and Andrew Blakely. Please come forward. Jackson, you may begin.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jackson Hawkins, and I'm an AMTAD student in 11th grade at Northwood High School who is here today to address the long-term impacts on both the careers and lives of the students at Northwood who will be moving to Woodward. Before that, though, I would like to start off with a simple request. We live in a world that it is very easy to get stuck in monotony. Please listen to the words that me and other speakers have and will say today and meditate on them with your full heart. Our entire lives, we humans climb staircases of action and consequence. At first, the steps are not that steep. They are very minimal, and we only need to breathe. However, as we begin to go up, as we begin to climb into high school, eventually, good grades, good academics, the rewards are not just praise, but opportunity. High school impacts the rest of our lives. If somebody does not have the chance to experience the arts in an auditorium, if somebody does not have the fair chance to arrive to school on time every day to do the best that they can in their studies, that will ripple out. I trust that all of you here, every single one of you, has our best interests in mind. However, you are at these meetings a lot, and I acknowledge the fact that it may be easy to forget that this is our future. Many of us are going to be impacted by this. Many of us are not going to have the same opportunities that we would have, and many of us will suffer because of this. If you get a bad grade on a quiz, it isn't the end of the world, but if you're constantly sleep deprived, if you do not have the chance to perform, if you do not have the chance to explore your opportunities while you are in high school, that can affect the rest of your life. I want to say before I step down to all of the students and staff who were brave enough to come out here today to keep fighting. And I want to say to all of the amazing members of the board that what you are doing is great, and I appreciate your efforts thus far, but I would like you to keep going for the sake of everybody here and for the sake of our futures. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrew?
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Andrew Blakey, and I'm a senior at Northwood High School. I'm here today to talk about the pressing auditorium problem at our holding school, Woodward. I'm pretty new to our Theater and Arts Academy, AMTAD, but throughout my matriculation through high school, I have had the honor and privilege of watching the magic happen on our auditorium. I've seen and experienced what can happen when a multitude of wonderful people get on a stage and do what they do best. Whether it be dance concerts or musical productions, our auditorium has brought together a multitude of people, not just in our school, but in our broader community as well. I have plenty of friends who have flourished on that stage, showing off their dancing and acting skills, many of whom are about to be without an auditorium. Friends who won't be able to be their full, authentic selves in a small black box, a black box that'll only seat about 130 people. Our current auditorium seats almost 1,000. Our community is going to become a fraction of what it is right now. We deserve what was initially promised to us. We as students deserve a full space to be our true and authentic selves. Our teachers deserve a chance to keep nurturing my fellow friends and peers. Robbing them of this by pushing back the construction of the auditorium they deserve would be a disservice to them. I urge the board to please reconsider. We deserve what was promised to us. The arts are just as important as athletics and academics. Our students deserve better, our teachers deserve better, and most importantly, Northwood deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you. We have received 6 video and audio testimonies. The first one comes from Michelle Silverberg. Please play the video.
Good afternoon, Montgomery County Board of Education. I am here to speak on 2 points. The late start time for Northwood High School at Woodward and misinformation that has reached the federal level. In the early 1990s, medical research found that teenagers have biologically different sleep and wake patterns than the pre-adolescent or adult population. On the basis of that information, in 1997, the 7 comprehensive high schools in the Minneapolis Public School District shifted the school start time from 7:15 a.m. to 8:40 a.m. This resulted in improved attendance and enrollment rates, less sleeping in class, and less student-reported depression. There was also an increase in the daily median sleep duration of 34 minutes, associated with a 4.5% increase in the median grades of the students and an improvement in attendance. Later school times, particularly when compared with start times more than 60 minutes earlier, are associated with longer weekday sleep durations, lower weekday sleep duration differences, reduced vehicular accident rates, and reduced subjective daytime sleepiness. Why are we going against research when we have used data to drive our decisions for decades? My second point, Muslim students are being labeled as anti-Semitic or anti-Zionist. Jewish students are being told not to talk to Muslim students by teachers. There's a culture of segregation building at Northwood, and it is not being initiated by students, but by teachers. When this happens, we teach our students to fear those who are different. We teach them a limited mindset, and we further divide our nation. How do we ensure that our staff members are creating a safe space for students to celebrate their culture? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peter Boyko. Please play the video.
Good afternoon, Dr. Felder and members of the MCPS Board of Education. My name is Peter Boyko. I'm a sophomore at Northwest High School, and today I want to talk to you about the new business agenda item you have coming up, where the student member, Sami Saeed, will propose a very exciting and very important resolution about wellness days. Wellness days are something that's been in conversations for a while now, especially in the student advocacy space we have here in Montgomery County, because the reality is advisory periods are not enough. We need breaks from time to time that won't impact the school calendar and won't force MCPS to add more days that eat into our summer break. And Sami's resolution does just that. Sami took to social media and took to his SMOB Advisory Council to really hone in on how wellness days would look like, and I hope you consider his proposal with an open mind. Not only does this resolution aim to formally establish wellness days into the MCPS calendar, starting with pilot programs next year, but it also proposes quarterly wellness half days beginning in the 2025 to 2026 school year. As a student, these changes and implementations would be extremely valuable. Students take on many responsibilities outside of school, which can lead to an overload of work and burnout, especially for high schoolers. One free class period or a half day of school can allow students to catch up on work or simply take time to rest. Also, not only is this resolution beneficial for students, but it's also tailored to staff members. Let's take proactive steps towards prioritizing student well-being and reduce burnout so that our students can succeed academically and mentally. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, we will hear from Kenneth Shu. Please play the video.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Shu, a sophomore at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm an ambassador of the Student Climate Action Council, vice president of the Richard Montgomery Ocean Conservation Club, and the president of my own club, the Growing and Giving Club. April's Earth Month, so I'd like to advocate for a critical initiative that I believe can significantly impact our schools and our environment. That is, implementing the Nextrex plastic film recycling program in more schools across our district. Currently, plastic bags and films are not accepted in Montgomery County recycling bins. As a result, in MCPS schools, various recyclable plastic films are finding their way into regular trash bins, contaminating our watersheds and damaging our health. When the AP exam season arrives next month, the problem will be exacerbated as a large amount of plastic waste will be created by the plastic exam wraps. The Nextrex recycling program offers a solution to this production of plastic waste. It involves setting up specialized recycling bins for plastic films and delivering their contents to designated recycling locations by student volunteers where the films will be recycled. With 211 schools in MCPS, each school producing an absolute minimum of just 1 pound of plastic per day would result in 37,800 pounds of plastic every year. It may sound like a lot, but it's possible to prevent this. Over just the past year, I have already led my club to collect 1,400 pounds of plastic from the community. Every bin set up is plastic taken out of the environment. In addition to raising awareness about the Nextrex recycling program, I propose that these initiatives be more rigorously enforced at schools by the Sustainability Action Plan and designated recycling coordinators. Specifically, with the AP season rapidly approaching, I believe sustainability clubs and organizations within our high schools should set up bins intended for collecting exam wraps. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Emily Fleming. Please play the video.
Hi, my name is Emily Fleming, and I am a sophomore at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, and I am testifying on behalf of the Green New Deal group. This past year, we unfortunately learned that our neighbor Wooten High School experienced a flood due to a massive rainstorm that destroyed a lot of the pipes inside the school. This incident caused many activities, such as Wooten's annual Model United Nations Conference, to be canceled. On behalf of BCC's Model United Nations team as their co-president, I have to express our team's immense sadness and anger and frustration over not being able to go to the conference this year. Because in the past years, we have had many fond memories at Wooten's conference, and it's created an environment where schools can come together and in the spirit of international diplomacy. In the future, climate change is only going to get worse. So rainstorms like what affected Wooten will become so much more present. And it is imperative that schools prepare and get emergency disaster preparedness plans to help deal with natural disasters like this, as well as having their infrastructure bettered so that they can support themselves and go on about their daily business without being interrupted by the effects of climate change. Because it is only going to get worse from here because of carbon emissions, and the natural disasters that come out of climate change will just become even more severe. All of these improvements can be made with a Green New Deal for public schools, which only the Montgomery County School Board can pass. School Board, I urge you, we need your help as students to help us continue to do the things at school that we love most, like extracurriculars, and continue to interact with other schools and just go on doing the things that make high school great without climate change taking that away from us, which can only be achieved with a Green New Public School Deal for public schools, which is why I urge you to take action to preserve high school and what high school means to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Ryan Acosta Fox. Please play the video.
My name is Ryan Acosta Fox, and I am speaking today as a teacher at Northwood High School and a resident of Wheaton and Silver Spring. I want to commend Northwood's Muslim Student Association for its work this year, and I also want to call on MCPS to reaffirm its commitment to protecting Muslim students, whose very existence today is constantly embattled. As a teacher, I believe public schools represent a singular opportunity for community. They allow all students, regardless of religion, race, gender, ethnicity, ability, sexuality, or social class, to interact with one another, to tell stories and hear them, and in the process to trace the invisible networks that connect us as a people. Students who work together to forge communal bonds show us that while our differences may feel pronounced, our similarities are limitless. This school year, I have had the great fortune of seeing the positive imprint the MSA has made on our school community. Events like the Chai and Chat lunch discussion, the calligraphy workshop, Wear a Hijab Day, or the after-school MSA Fest, all these things took an extensive level of time, effort, and coordination, and they allowed us all to see a beautiful facet of our MCPS community. It is life-affirming what our kids can accomplish when they work together. A tea, a workshop, a fair, these are simple and good things, beautiful in the way all simple and good things are. But their simplicity belies a dedication that can only come from love. Student members of the MSA have looked at a challenging world and responded with love. Love of culture, love of language, love of the shared human experience that allows the most important kind of love for oneself and one's own identity, to flourish. The students in Northwood's MSA are strong kids, much stronger than any kid should have to be. Above all, I want them to know that they are seen, heard, lauded, and protected. I want them to know that, as MCPS puts it, we have an obligation to, quote, make sure our students have the right to express their religious or non-religious beliefs and practices free from discrimination, bullying, or harassment, end quote. I want to close by calling on MCPS to reaffirm this obligation. Our students must feel safe to express the full version of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final audio testimony comes from Flor Palma. Please play the audio.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Flora Palma. I'm a junior here at Northwood High School.
I'm a member of Northwood's Theater Department and a student board member of AMTAD, Academy of Music, Theater, and Dance. I'm speaking here today about Woodward's recent decisions impacting the school's auditorium, how it's been pushed back to 2027 instead of it being completed by the summer of 2025 in Phase 2. As someone who has been involved with Northwood's theater program for 3 years now, I've seen the various and different aspects of how much people have utilized this space, not only with the performing arts, but advocating in communities, assemblies, showing culture and pride, even being a space for different educational programs to strive in. This auditorium is fluctuating each day with new things being able to be shown and shared. To remove such a space that's been through so much can be so impactful amongst the staff and students who built up and rose the community to who they are today. Not only with that, but also this can impact future sales and budgets, as well as seeing that we'll have far less seats being sold in the black box compared to our recent success with Grease in the Spring. The theater is something that motivates. It can inspire those to keep moving forward and keep coming back for more. It's the heart and anchor of the community that allows expression and freedom for those who step in. Having this auditorium will give opportunities, even with those who prioritize this space as the only place to perform, advocate, dream, and to feel seen and heard. I've had my fair share of being restricted and limited despite wanting to do so much more, even when life keeps pushing that hope down. And I wouldn't want that same obstacle to happen for the upcoming generations to come at Northwood. We want students to keep coming back for more, to keep dreaming, to keep speaking up for what they believe in, and this auditorium is going to allow them the opportunity to do that. So in great respect, I hope that you would reconsider the recent decisions and to be put the auditorium back into Phase 2. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This will conclude our public comments. The next business meeting of the Board of Education for public comment is Thursday, May 9th, 2024. Sign-ups for public comment will open on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. In addition to the online sign-ups for public comment, we allow for in-person same-day sign-ups when space allows. Unallocated slots may be filled on a first-come, first-served basis on the day of the meeting. In order to sign up in person, please arrive 15 to 20 minutes before the start of the open session and sign the form. In-person sign-ups will close 15 minutes before public comment begins or when all slots are filled. And with that, I will see if my colleagues have any questions or comments, starting with Mr. Said and then Ms. Yang.
First, I want to say, of course, as always, thank you to everyone who came out. And it was fantastic to see an overwhelming amount of students here today. I think there was a lot of students, and I think that demonstrates how committed students here are to giving that feedback. So I have a couple things, a couple comments, and a couple quick questions. So the first is, thank you to all the students who've come predominantly from BCC High School to talk about the Green New Deal. I would say if I could get, a copy of what specifically, because I know each testimony kind of comes with different ideas, which have all been fantastic. I would just request, just a document specifically outlining what that would look like, just so I have a better holistic understanding, because I've heard a lot of great ideas and I kind of want to have that all in one. Also, thank you to Peter for testifying for the Wellness Day resolution, which I hope to bring in a later board meeting. So it was initially scheduled for today, but just to make sure that, everything in that resolution was, really solid, and to make sure that it aligned with all of our stakeholders, what they wanted to see. I'm going to present that at the next board meeting. So I just want to clear up if there's any confusion there. I also want to request that MCPS follows up with the Muslim Student Association at Northwood High School. We've heard multiple testimonies just today about, issues there. I just want to get a better understanding of what's going on. So if we could follow up with the student and, the teachers who have been talking about that, that would be fantastic. And then I also want to thank all the students that came out from Northwood and the community members that came out from Northwood. As you know, this has been a very complex situation, and I think it would be good to address it. So, Mr. Hull, if you could give us just an outline of the situation, if there's any updates, what we're looking at, just so all the people who have come out here today and the whole community can kind of be more aware of what's going on, that would be really helpful.
Sure. Thank you for that. And thank you to all of the students and community members who have come out and addressed this topic today and in previous board meetings. Obviously, this is a very important topic and one that we take very seriously. We want to hear from our community. We want to hear from our students so that we know where there are concerns and how we can best address them. So we have made several adjustments over the past couple of weeks as far as directly addressing some of the concerns that have been raised. And so I know the largest, or one of the larger ones, was around the school start times and the transportation issues. And so while there will be inherent challenges and inconveniences to being at a holding school that is 9 miles away from the current school, and we acknowledge that, we have been able, working with our transportation department, to adjust some of the routes at no small undertaking to make sure that we push the start times back as much as possible. And so now I believe the start time is going to be 5 minutes earlier next year than it is this year. The first bus stop pickups will be 3 minutes earlier next year than they are this year. So we really have done our best to address those challenges. The rides will be longer because of the location for many students, but we have done everything we can to make sure that the start times and the bus routes have been adjusted to accommodate the needs of our students. As far as the auditorium goes, and the fields, I certainly hear those concerns. We want to make sure that all of our students have the facilities that they need to be successful and to have a great high school experience. So I have had conversations with several county council members, and I know that many of our board members have as well. And so we will do everything that we can, working with the county council, who funds our both our operating budget and our CIP, to include that in the off-year amendments. And so the council does allow MCPS to make amendments in the off year of the 2-year cycle, and so that is our plan, is to address that next year and make sure that we get that in place as soon as possible.
Dr. Johnson, you wanted to say something about that?
Yes, I do. For many of the students that are here from Northwood High School, you may or may not know that in 2003 and 4, I was appointed as the principal of Northwood High School, the very proud principal of Northwood High School. There was just a 9th grade class at the time. We had a cafeteria that was actually the auxiliary gym that you all are in right now. Mm-hmm. We had no hot meals. We only had cold meals when I was the principal there. And we endured a lot. So I can understand your feelings and your thoughts and your determination to make sure that you have the best school. But I get very emotional when I think about this, because you are going to have probably one of the most beautiful buildings in the state of Maryland when all is said and done. And those who came before you, the classes of 2008, 2009, 2010, who had to eat in that cafeteria with no hot food, who had to smell the tar on the roof, and had to go through all of those things to get a media center and to get a cafeteria and to get a school that you all proudly call home today, those students are looking forward to this opportunity to see that brand new school. So I know that the board understands that. I understand that. I'm very passionate about it, and I want you to know that we support you as best we can. But when all is said and done, you will be very, very happy with the building that you have, because it will be the best and brightest building in the state of Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
So, I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Hull, and thank you, Dr. Johnson, for those heartfelt words. And I just want to reiterate to all of you, the start time, I think the success that we've had with adjusting those routes, that's overwhelming. We're going to start school at 7:40 as opposed to 7:45. With a 9-mile difference, I think that's a huge kind of, thing to celebrate on behalf of our transportation team. That took, I know, immense effort to do something like that. And what I want to say, too, is, keep advocating. Keep advocating. We are all, in agreement here that we want an auditorium for Northwood High School. And if we can get those funds, we're 100%, for that. And so, I appreciate the advocacy you guys have. I know as an advocate myself, I can relate to you guys. I can understand. And while, I haven't had to, face a situation like this, I can appreciate you all coming out here and doing this. So keep fighting, keep having your voices heard. And you guys have, I think, as a result, already created some change. So keep moving the needle forward on that. And thank you all for being here.
Ms. Yang?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I think this is the largest amount of students for testimony I have seen at board meetings. So thank you all for coming. And I think we addressed several issues. I heard testimony from Matilda Mathida and Anina both mentioned some curriculum experiences they have in elementary school and middle school. One to teach about science, pollution, one about social study, about what terrorism. I just want the staff to follow up with the students, take a look at those curriculum again to see if that meets our standard. Is that what it is? Accurate delivery of the curriculum. So I just want that to be checked on so that we have an understanding. And then I also very much appreciate the students giving us practical, great suggestion on environmental efforts, right? And I applaud Kenneth for his very timely suggestion about recycling the plastic wrap for the upcoming AP season. So I hope that many of our schools' recycling liaison or sustainability liaison are listening to the testimony. And lastly, I want to thank Ms. Howe for your comment about decision being made with community, not to community. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Nadrowski and then Mrs. Rivera-Aven.
Yeah. I just have a kind of clarifying question. Mr. LaPlato? I'm not sure. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you. With a name like Spondrowski, I try to be very careful about that. But the test, first of all, I'm a very big supporter of the idea of students' free metro rail transportation. Fought for the metro free bus access as well. So, but it was my understanding that the programs, the dual enrollment program with the Montgomery College, is that the students got picked up by buses at their schools. Is that not the case? I was going to say, because I know I was at Wooten one day when kids got off the bus and I was like, oh, where are they coming from? And they said, they're in the dual enrollment program. So I was like, okay. Hold on, sorry.
So the system does pay for transportation, but does not provide yellow school bus service for all students. But I can look into that and get back to you with more details as far as what is provided and what is possible.
Thank you. I would appreciate that very much.
Mr. Rivera-Aven?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, just to follow up on that, because I had it on my list. And I think what I heard Mr. Nathan said was the fact that it's also the proximity, because just to give you an idea, if you are taking a class at Montgomery College in Rockville and you go to Damascus High School, it will take you 7 buses to be able to get to Montgomery College in Rockville. So I think what he was saying is that makes a difference if you can take Metro, because then you would just take, you go to Shady Grove and you will take Metro all the way to here, in a sense. So I think it makes sense. I think this is something that you also need to take to the county council, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to make those changes, there, and they can advocate for that as well, with our partners. But I totally hear you, and I think anything that we can do to elevate our students and then equities and education, and to be able to expand the experiences of different students who otherwise don't have, the luxury of having a car. It's a game changer, and it's a gain economically for everyone involved. So thank you for bringing that to the table. I do want to say I'm very saddened. Again, and this is, I want to thank the students for coming and for bringing forward that we still are hearing about just, the hate speech in our schools. We heard it from our students from the Jewish community, and now we're hearing it from our Muslim students. And it saddens me because not only are there students saying that, but now we're seeing adults who are in the buildings noticing that this is happening. And I just wanted to implore the system to talk to those adults who are at the schools, who are there every day. They're in the front lines. But if there's any more diverse school system in the country, it's Montgomery County. I personally know, and I know some of you probably at this table know what it feels like to be discriminated, to be singled out, and it's certainly not a great feeling to have by any means. And then you add that as being somebody who's growing up, who's developing, who's making new friends, and then you add what we went through the pandemic, then you add all those other ingredients, right? It's not a good place to be. And I really, somebody said, I don't know if it was a teacher or somebody said, you know, what we just need is so simple, right? Is to kind of see each other for who we are, accept each other for who we are, and love each other. That is such a simple recipe. And sometimes I think young people follow that recipe better than adults. And I think we all need to kind of do a little examining. There was a young man from Northwood, you know, and he spoke so he brought me to tears because sometimes we forget that we were students at one point. And that the most important thing, like when I was at Gatesburg High School, was my theater experience, right? That's what I lived for. That's what, you know, even with my heavy accent back then, well, I still have a little accent now, but even, you know, it was a place where I belonged. It was a place where I felt safe, and it was a place where I felt like I had true friends. So I want to tell the Northwood students, as a theater mom, my heart breaks for you, but know that we're doing everything possible. We're looking at every possibility to ensure that your experience is a positive one, and we are just very grateful just for your patience and for your advocacy. And I hope you take that advocacy with you to different places in your life. And you will look back on this day one day when you're advocating for your own kids, for your own communities, for your own families. So I just want to say thank you so much, because I know this is a huge sacrifice, not just for you guys, but for your parents, right? But know that there's going to be another generation coming behind you who are going to be able to enjoy exactly that. And I'm sorry that, you know, you're feeling the pressure now, and this doesn't really help you right now, right, to deal with it. But know that it's not unnoticed, and that some of us, you know, we feel your pain, because we all have had kids and we all have been at that point. And with CREA, I wanted to thank our wonderful teacher from CREA. I think this is a group of students that we really need to take a look as a system again, what we are doing. The fact that they don't have any of these services, that they don't have psychologists, that they don't have therapists, that they don't have nurses, and yet they're probably the most impacted emotionally, and they come with so much trauma. It truly worries me. It bothers me as well, because these are such a resilient young people, and as you said it so eloquently, they are those, you know, they're working during the day, they're helping their families put food on the table, put rent on, you know, and they're trying to make the sacrifices to be able to get a GED. So anything that we can do, and I wanted to ask Mr. Hall, because this is some of us that will be visiting CREA next week. What are we doing to reinforce that? Because we know that, you know, anything that we can, again, invest in our most vulnerable populations now, we all are better for it. We're all a better community for it.
So what's the question again?
And I wanted to know, because I know I heard that we were doing some cuts in CREA. And I know that that's what the community is thinking, that we had cut like a few positions in CREA, but also what are we doing to provide some of those services, like a nurse, a therapist, a psychologist, some of the other things that we provide to our other students in the system.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes, I'm going to ask Dr. LaGrange to come down and talk a little bit about the CREA experience, and staff members will be with the board members next week when they do their visit. So Dr. LaGrange.
Thank you so much. So with the CREA staffing for this year, I'll speak to the staffing in the instructional program and the program that they do for career and technical education. There were 2 positions for CREA. One position was grant funded, and the grant ended. And the other position was an overhire. So these 2 positions we have known for some time. We were not going to be able to continue. We were able to
Overhire?
Overhire, correct.
What does that mean?
Overhire means that the position was taken from another department. It was taken from DELMI. And with DELMI, our for our emerging multilingual learners, and their ratios are incredibly high, and they have a very limited pool of teachers. And so that position had to be given back to Delmy to support schools. Some of their schools have a ratio of 60-1. They have had so many students who came recently who are emergent multilingual learners, and they had to have that position back. With CREA, we were able to find a position for the day program. The teacher who teaches in the day program is an emergent multilingual teacher. However, she does not teach any emergent multilingual English language development classes. So we were able to find a position that would allow her to continue the CREA program during the day. For the evening program, we are confident that for this 1 year, we will be able to work with the staff to help them create a schedule that will meet the needs of the students. Currently, there is quite a bit of flexibility in the schedule, and we feel that in working together with the Delmy team, we will be able to create a schedule that will absolutely meet the needs of the students, and the students will not be impacted. We are currently going through a program evaluation. That evaluation will be done in June. The evaluation, as you've asked us before, is based on the CAL report, the Center for Applied Linguistics. We are looking at national research, and we're also had an opportunity to visit some schools in Washington, D.C. that provide services for older emergent multilingual learners. So we are really excited to bring all of that for you. One of the challenges that we've had with CREA since its inception is that CREA has not had consistent staffing. And so the staffing was pulled from different directions, and of course, due to many reasons, the positions flow. And that has been incredibly stressful for their staff. Their staff works hard, they're committed to the students. One thing that was noted by the external evaluators is just a sense of community at CREA, especially in the night program. And so as a district, we do need to think about how we're going to restructure that program, and we will be able to bring you our recommendations either this summer or early fall.
Thank you for that. And I know we're going to probably delve more into this at the site visit, but very glad to hear that there's an evaluation because we want to be doing the best practices for this population.
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf.
Yes, I just want to say something that I always say. Our future is in good hands. If these Northwood students are any example, our future is in good hands. We can't thank you enough for coming out today. You obviously are learning a lot in our schools about advocacy, and you're demonstrating. So thank you for coming. I just have a couple of points. I wanted to talk to Ms. Perino a little bit because she raised an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and that's inequities in program placement. We've been doing an assessment of what programs are located where, because that has been a big concern of mine. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that at a future date. But I just wanted you to know that that is something that is on our radar too. I also wanted to talk to Ms. Shimsu. I hope I didn't mess up your name. She raised the issue of ID scanners, and I wanted to know if that's anything that we are considering as part of our school safety program.
So we have a pilot program this year at several schools where students are required to show their ID, and a few schools where the students do scan their IDs. So starting in the fall, it'll be a requirement at all secondary schools for students to wear and show their IDs. And then from that, we will get to a place where we are doing scanned IDs. That is the end goal.
Are we collecting data on that to figure out whether or not that's keeping out intruders?
I don't know that we have any hard data to say that these schools. Let me get back to you on that. Let me think about
What I can say to that is at Richard Montgomery, I know that our principals told me that they have seen cases where students from other schools tried to think about entering the building, they see the ID checks, and they've said talking to security that some people have been swayed away from that. That's just what I've heard anecdotally. So I think it would be definitely something difficult to collect data on because you don't know how many people would be, but that is, I think, something I've heard anecdotally does somewhat work. And, it's not foolproof, but it's better than
I think it's important to collect some data because I've seen out there in the universe, probably the Twitter universe, that people go in, they use their badge to come in a different door, and people are coming in behind them. I don't know what we can do about that, but I do think it's something that we ought to consider. Did you want to say something?
Sure. I would just say that is a concern that we're aware of, specifically students opening the door from the inside and letting students from other schools in. And so one of the things that we're also looking at is alarms on the exterior doors to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And lastly, Michelle Silberberg, she raised the issue of culture of segregation being caused by teachers. That's a real concern to me. I mean, we're constantly providing training on certain issues, and we're constantly receiving information that things are still going on that should be improved by this training. So I was hoping that somebody could go out to her school and maybe talk to her and see what's going on and get back to me on that. I'd appreciate that, and I just want the CREA people to know that I look forward to our visit next week. Thank you.
Mrs. Evans.
Sure. So it's been stated already, but I think it's worth repeating. Our students are so fabulous. I loved hearing everybody come forward and just being so thoughtful and paying attention to what's going on. I love the idea of the Metro Rail Pass. I don't know why we didn't think about that. I hope there's some way that we can talk to, to someone in our county to help that. That's a great idea. So thank you for that. And then I wanted to say Sydney. So your name stuck with me because my daughter's name is Sydney as well. You really painted a great picture of what your experience was like and how involved our community is in wanting to come and see the performances. So Ms. Howe, yes, I appreciate your supportive testimony in stating that you understand and know our needs, and that if in fact between now and the amendment process to our CIP, if we can look at that, I absolutely want to do that as well. I absolutely want to do that. So I just wanted to state to you all, thank you for coming out and to sharing your voices and just remaining active and engaged. Thank you.
Ms. Harris.
Yeah, thank you. First thing, I did want to double down. I think it was what Ms. Yang said about the example of the curriculum that Ms. Shamsu has in her hand right now. If somebody from curriculum could just take that from her, because if that is part of the MCPS curriculum, that is utterly unacceptable. And I hope it was a one-off, but yeah. And I do want to thank all of the Northwood community for being here. I am very much looking forward to your final dance showcase in the current Northwood High School next week. I will be there. Can't wait to see it. And I did want to say, is Ms. Presco still here? Yeah, I do want to apologize to you directly. The testimony at the April 11th board meeting by a member of Northwood staff was absolutely unacceptable. And I know that action is being taken, but I did want to apologize to you directly and the other members of the Muslim Student Association. I was a Northwood Gladiator on March 8th, and I got to go to the cultural celebration you all hosted in the courtyard afterwards, and that was such a lovely, lovely event. And I so appreciate what you're doing in your school. I hope you are not dissuaded because of some of the things that you've experienced, and I hope you're feeling strong support from, like Mr. Acosta-Fox and I were just talking this morning, and from other members of your school community, because I know the Northwood school community is an amazing one. So, yeah, thank you for coming.
Okay, seeing no other lights on. Thank you, everyone, for testifying. We will now move on to our next agenda item. Agenda item number 6, consent items. I will ask my fellow board members if they have any items that they would like to pull. Mr. Said.
Yes, I would like to pull item, I believe it is 6.3, if I'm correct. Is that the one, the $3 million?
Information technology, equipment, software, and services
Yes.
contract, additional funds?
Yes, I believe that is.
Okay. Ms. Harris?
Yeah, item 6.1, please.
Okay. And I would like to pull 6.4.
Should we just do them all individually then?
Let's,
Let's just do them individually. Because I'm not even sure what this one is considered. Is this on the consent item? This is the supplemental appropriation for technology modernization.
6.4.
Oh, that's 6.4. Okay.
All right, can we get 6.1, please? Crown High School new project.
Yes, I was just going to have Mr. Adams, Mr. Hull, just, we've all been talking about the capital budget and the way the inflationary pressures are just crushing the life out of it. And the costs of our projects and the timeline for our projects have just gone up beyond what anyone could have imagined over the past 3 years. So looking at the price tag, $177 million, almost $178 million. I just thought you could give us a little additional context, especially as we are looking to find some room in our off-year CIP to deal with the Woodward Auditorium and things like that.
Sure, that is something that certainly we have been grappling with for the past 5 years. I think the number is in the 40% range increase since right before the pandemic. And just for reference, this is $178 million for Crown. Northwood was close to $190 million. So this is slightly less than where we were even for the Northwood project. But it is something as we continue to, build out our CIP and our capacity around this, we're looking at all sorts of different ways to bring in projects below cost or try to manage this inflationary pressure. But it is something that's real. It's not just school construction, it's across the board. And certainly, again, one of the primary reasons why we were suggesting and making some decisions around these projects and scope in order to keep them moving forward and to try to maintain giving all the amenities that the students deserve at all these facilities.
Yeah, and I do appreciate too the fact that we're bringing these building designs online as net zero. And we are using safer materials now in, some of the issues around safety, environmental health and safety that have been raised by some of our projects. And so I just do appreciate the attention to all of that work. And I was at Poolsville Falcon yesterday, and so got to be in their not quite fully finished new space, but fully operational new space. And, that's just a nice building. So, and everybody was appreciating it.
Okay, 6.3.
Real quick, actually, can I have a follow-up question on 6.1, Mr. Adams? It's just a general question since we're talking about Crown. Recently, I visited the site where the school is going to be built, which is interesting because I just wanted to see what it looks like now in comparison to the future. What is the plan on when we actually are going to start, break ground for the project on Crown High School? Like, what is the date for the start?
So assuming you approve today's contract, it would be, we would start right around June 1st for that project.
Okay, very quick. Okay, I just wanted to clear that from my head. Thank you so much, Mr. Adams. So on item 6.3, I just wanted general, clarification. I see information technology equipment, and I know it references a previous board meeting. I just wanted more clarity on what exactly that means, just so the public is aware of what specifically this contract is approving.
That is approving additional money for our security cameras at our schools, about 50 schools.
And, I'm a little curious, is it possible that we can put that information in next time? Just because when I see information technology equipment, I don't know what that means, what it could be. So if possible in the future, if we could be more clear on what exactly it is. So security cameras at elementary schools, maybe. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually been working with Ms. Harris to try and provide a little bit more detail around our consent item agendas to eliminate, confusion like that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's all.
With 6.4, the FY24 supplemental appropriation for technology technology modernization. I wanted to understand what this is.
Okay, so we do this every year. We bring this to the board every year. And every year we get money, a rebate, every time we spend money through our tech mod budget on connectivity, telephone services, network equipment, basically all of our network infrastructure. You can come on up, Scott. I brought Scott in case there was questions I couldn't address. So we get a rebate. So for how much we spend, county council we get a rebate. We then have to ask county council to give us that rebate, and then that money every year goes back into the tech mod budget to offset the costs that we incur every year to maintain our network infrastructure.
And can you, Dr. Johnson?
Yes, and it should be noted that when Ms. Sharon and her team were with the Education and Culture Committee earlier this week or last week, they specifically asked them to create this resolution or this supplemental appropriation so that we could get our money.
Yeah, or we will not get our money back because it has to go through approval to them to get it back.
And can you help me understand where this money lies for operating versus CIP, technology modernization?
That's in our CIP budget. So that's through our tech mod CIP funds. That's how we have a line item in there, and that's what we use to pay for all of our network infrastructure. And then we get that money back. We put it back into our CIP budget. That is traditionally what we have done to offset the cost of what we had spent in the CIP, and we factor that in to the next budget cycle. And actually, if you look at the county council's packet that they did on tech mod on Monday's meeting, they actually adjust the allocation we get in CIP by the amount of anticipated E-rate funding we're going to get, right? So they balance off their recommendation with the E-rate funding.
I guess I was confused why, if that was an operating budget discussion, we were talking about a CIP budget item at the ENC committee meeting.
Oh, they do that every year. And they do that because the technology CIP and how we're using technology is so closely related to the work that we're doing in schools and the operating budget. So every year they do that.
Okay, thank you. 6.4.
That was 6.4.
Oh, okay. Did someone say, that's it, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, Ms. Mondrowski?
I'll move the consent items in block.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. And that is unanimous with those present. Thank you. So we are now moving on to agenda item number 7, item for discussion. We are going to talk about our corrective action dashboard. Basically, as you all know, the Office of the OIG, Inspector General for Montgomery County, gave us a series of recommendations that the school district needed to comply with. And we have created this dashboard and so that we can show the public the progress that we are making in complying with those recommendations from the OIG. So with that, I pass it on to Dr. Johnson.
So thank you, Ms. Silvestri. I moved from my acting seat over there to my real role as the acting chief of staff in order to discuss this topic. Thank you for the opportunity for us to update you, the board, and the community about the work that has been done to address issues identified by the Inspector General and the community at large around compliance and investigation regarding complaints handled by the Department of Compliance Investigations within the Office of Human Resources and Development. So after the appointment of Dr. Felder as the interim superintendent in February, and after President Silvestri and other members met with the county council, I was tasked with working with Ms. Key and members of the department to develop a plan that addresses investigations in a more timely manner, and ensures a structure that allows for staff and student concerns to be reported and handled appropriately. To do that, we had to first look at the recommendations in the report to Montgomery County Public Schools by the Montgomery County Office of the Inspector General. The first report from January 10th, 2024, titled Investigation of Misconduct by Senior MCPS Officers, and the second from January 24th, 2024, titled MCPS complaint processing was the basis for the work that we've been doing. Today's presentation discussion will center around the progress that has been made to address both the findings and the recommendations of the Office of the Inspector General, as well as previous recommendations by other groups on this matter. At the table with me this afternoon is Ms. April Key, Chief of the Office of Human Resources and Development, Dr. Darlene Harris, Executive Director in that office, and Mr. Chris Cram, who is our Director in the Department of Communications. Our goal here is to, one, provide an update on the progress the team has made implementing the recommendations made by the Office of the Inspector General. Two, to ensure that you, members of the Board of Education and the community, clearly understand the various ways to report misconduct, workplace bullying, harassment, fraud, waste, and abuse, and to identify the function of the Department of Compliance and Investigations and the work that has been done with staff and principals to ensure that cases are handled in a timely manner. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Cram, who is going to present the website. There's been some concern that is it a website, is it a dashboard? So we're going back and forth. And he will talk to you about the fact that it is a fluid website dashboard that changes almost hourly, daily. He will address the findings and recommendations. And then after that, Ms. Key and Dr. Harris will present ways to report fraud, waste, abuse, and misconduct, and how the Department of Compliance and Investigations is organized to address staff concerns. It should be noted, however, I think this is important, that quite a bit of work has been done in a short amount of time to address the timelines and investigations, and Dr. Harris will provide an update with numbers on the work that she has done with the office to address those concerns. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cram to go through that information with you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Silvestri and members of the Board of Education. I appreciate the opportunity to share this website with you this afternoon. MCPS TV, could we have the computer up, please? Thank you. Before I get to the website, I wanted to take a quick moment and demonstrate to you how to find the website. And there are two key ways to do that. When you visit the MCPS homepage, montgomeryschoolsmd.org, you can either type in the search box any number of search words: corrective, corrective action, dashboard, report, and we're going to type in corrective action. We have, when the search comes up, it worked earlier. The first return is that web page, and you'll see as we go there, it leads to the page. The other way I wanted to demonstrate to you is that on the home page of MCPS, below the video, there's a series of icons, including one that's labeled Corrective Actions Progress Report. So right from our homepage and from within our search, you can make your way to the Corrective Actions Progress Report webpage, which at times has been called Dashboard.
And we did learn as board members that you have to have your web page on 100% view, no bigger, because then you lose some of those icons.
So you're absolutely right. So when we design our mobile-friendly web pages, they're designed in a way to fit on a variety of screen sizes. And for most desktops, some of the smaller screens, you do need to make sure that your view is at 100%.
Thank you.
So anyway, we are now on the Corrective Actions Progress Report website, and as Dr. Johnson indicated, this is going to be a dynamic page, meaning its value is in that we keep it up to date as the actions, the work to address these matters is reported on this page. And so as that work is done, you'll see that there is a date on the page, and that's how you'll know how recent. I'm sorry, you're right. There it is. Thank you, MCPS TV. If we could just keep the website up for a few moments, please. You'll see that there's a date on the page, and you can see that it was updated as recently as yesterday. There are 5 areas on the page I want to draw your attention to below this introduction area. The first one is the direct findings and recommendations from the two reports from the Office of Inspector General that Dr. Johnson referenced, MCPS complaint processing and the investigation of misconduct by MCPS senior officials. And in that section, you can see that those reports are linked here, so you can get the context of the full report. But the direct wording of the Inspector General's findings and recommendations are here for viewers to see. Next to that is are the actions that MCPS is working on, and then a status bar of where that work stands. This is color-coded in orange for not yet begun or under review, yellow for in progress, and green for completed. These colors match a similar status that the Office of Inspector General used in his own or her own reporting. In the same first section, you can see that the second report referenced is down here below, and again, the findings and recommendations. The next section on the website are independent actions, corrective actions taken by MCPS and were reported in the action plan update shared with you and the community, the first one last October in 2023, and then more recently in January 24th of this year. And each of the work reported in those documents can be found here, and again, you can see the status of those items. The third and final section that are recommendations do come from the addendum or the ancillary documents that were referenced by the Office of the Inspector General in their own reports, just as Dr. Johnson mentioned. So we did pull those recommendations out and put them on the page as well, and you can see the status of some of that work here. The final two sections on the page are a section where we're reporting working with staff in the Office of the General Counsel on the Board of Education policy work. There's staff there that works directly with that board committee led by Ms. Smondrowski. And then the final section is a direct link to the work of the Community of Practice Work Group. So those are the 5 sections on the page. There is a navigation here at the bottom that can take you back to the top. There is navigation here at the top that will take you to those 3 main sections. I did want to point out that one of the recommendations from the Office of Inspector General does directly reference Board of Education policy work. That happens to be recommendation 3 here, and so that people can get directly from what is written in their recommendation to the board policy section, there is a link here that will take you down to that section. So people should more easily be able to navigate the page. That's essentially it, what I wanted to present to you, but again, stressing that we'll be working closely with those who are doing the work in the Department of Compliance Investigation, the General Counsel's Office, and others to ensure that the page is kept up to date.
So before we move forward to the next area and we move away from the website, I'd like to also add that my office, me in particular, meet with team members from the Office of the Inspector General every 2 weeks. And so we share our information with them. As you will see from the recommendations that they have made, the findings and the recommendations, most of those are in progress. They cannot be moved to complete it until we get approval from them. And so one of the reasons why I'm meeting with them on a regular basis is to go through this information with them and say, are we ready to move from in progress to complete it? And once they give us that permission, then we will make the changes on the website. And that's why, as Mr. Cram said, it is a fluid document that sometimes can change daily, hourly, depending upon the meeting with them. I have my next meeting with them on Monday. I've already shared the website with them. They've given us some feedback, and we'll be talking about our next steps in this area now that they have that information. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Key and Dr. Harrison. We'll go back to our PowerPoint so that we can address those other areas for discussion today.
We should be on slide 5. So this is the information that is contained in the website that we use to monitor our work. Next slide, please. Yeah, perfect, thank you. There are multiple ways an employee or a community member can report allegations of misconduct, workplace bullying, harassment, and fraud, waste, and abuse. Lighthouse is housed with the Board of Education. It is anonymous. While it was originally established for fraud, waste, and abuse, as of late, it can be used for any complaint, any concern, or any allegation. Maryland Center for Safe Schools is an anonymous reporting entity. It was established for students, teachers, parents, and the general public to report any school safety concern, including mental health. The Montgomery County Office of the Inspector General has a number of employees dedicated to the oversight and monitoring of the largest school district in the state of Maryland. They receive any and all types of complaints. The Board of Education ombudsperson is employed by the board and is an individual who works directly with parents and the community at large to resolve issues that may not have a formal resolution process. After the initial report from the Inspector General, we provided each school and department with this posters. So they are posted in every department, in every school. It defines workplace bullying and harassment, has the policy, the form, the regulation, and you can get it all here on the QR code. At the recommendation of the board, the poster for the 25 school year will include information on reporting in place of the policy, regulation, and the form. Under the leadership of Ms. Marie Sneed, who is recognized in the education industry as a lawyer who helps school districts, independent schools, educational institutions, and educational companies solve their most complex problems. She regularly provides an in-depth training on workplace bullying and sexual harassment, ensuring that districts know how to act on such allegations. MCPS convened a team to work with her that included Stephanie Williams, General Counsel, Stacy Ormsby, Attorney, Greg Edmondson, Director, Student Welfare and Compliance, and Heather Dublinsky, Executive Director in the Office of the Chief Operating Officer. The team has provided is providing training for every administrator in the school system. As of today, 745 out of the 920 employees have engaged in the learning. Next slide. This is just a reiteration for the board and the community that Lighthouse and Maryland Safe Schools are independent and anonymous. The school system does not have access to these reporting entities. Next slide. The EEOC, the MCCR, and MCPD are other entities in the community that employees can report allegations and concerns. And I'll send it to Dr. Harris.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to let you know also some of the slides that you've just seen from Ms. Key was also being given to the administrators that was doing the training. So the 745 administrators are also seeing this information too, which is important so that they know what we're discussing in the community and also to the board. So with that, if you could turn to the next slide, please. So what we do, so what I mean by that is the Department of Compliance and Investigations. And what you'll see is 2 buckets here. And the reason why you see 2 buckets is because sometimes people get confused about what Department of Compliance and Investigation does. And actually, what do we do? So you'll see the light blue bucket on the left-hand side, but actually there's also a light yellow bucket, which is Mr. Edmondson's Office for the Student Welfare and Compliance. They typically deal with students. So all the information you see there are students. But sometimes people get confused and say, hey, this is what I have. And they say, no, send it over to the Department of Compliance and Investigation. So that's what I want to talk about, just what Department of Compliance and Investigation does. Because a lot of time people think they just do investigations, but it's more than that. So if you look and see, they deal with, of course, employee misconduct and code of conduct violation, sexual harassment, workplace bullying. We also do drug and alcohol testing. So every semester we take random staff members and we drug test them. I'm talking about Department of Transportation, DF&S. It's something that we do and we have to do to make sure that our kids are safe on buses and other places. That also means that sometimes staff in the schools might need to be tested, and we take care of that too. So that is also another portion that we take care of. We also do employee ADA accommodations, which is the Americans with Disability Act. And right now, we currently have 248 accommodations for staff in the system. And we currently continue to get requests for accommodations, and there's a phase through that. There's a first phase, they can appeal again, and also come to you sometimes, which you have seen in the past. We have the House Bill 486 in background screening, which was a problem before, but they kind of fixed it, I guess. And that means basically within 60 days of being hired, before you had to do it before you got hired. But I think we put up so much fuss in the state of Maryland. They said within 60 days that you had to, if you're an employee, you have to make sure that you give us the last 10 years of your employment to make sure there's no child abuse or sexual misconduct. Along with the fingerprint clearance, if there are any hits, as we call it, or something that comes up, it needs to be cleared through the Department of Compliance and Investigation. We do have some people who were before sheriffs, police officers that have the credentials to be able to look and see what misdemeanors or felonies that someone has. Next, you'll see that we also do Child Protective Service investigation involving staff. Believe it or not, we probably typically have between at least 5 to 7 or more Child Protective Services that are called in, and that's why we also have, believe it or not, one of our background screening specialists who is housed in DHHS, because that's how many cases that we can get throughout the year that we're budgeted for. And that happened this year, that we were able to get somebody over on the DHHS side. We also have EEOC complaints, which is I always forget it, but the Equal Employment Opportunity Commissions. And basically that's just for illegal job discrimination. And we work with the Office of General Counsel on this for any complaints. And then we also have the I-9 employment eligibility verification, which we just need to make sure that you really are who you say you are. And that is for citizens and non-citizens. And then last but not least, if people have misconduct and there are code of conduct violations, we have to do hearings, which is a whole nother process. So we call them louder meals for certificate staff. And then we have like predetermined conferences for non-certificated staff. The difference between the two is if it's certificated staff, it involves general counsel because there can be arbitration or there can be a board hearing. So those are just the majority of the things that the Compliance and Investigation Office does. And with that, because we have been getting additional funding, currently we have 11 people in this office. Before the pandemic, I think there was 4. So we have currently 3 permanent investigators. We have 3 temporary investigators. We have 3 coordinators, and we have 2 administrative support. along with the director. So with that has helped tremendously relieve the load because we have the coordinators who work on the ADA accommodations, but they also do investigations from time to time. And then the investigators work on the sexual harassment and workplace bullying. And with that, because of that additional staff, we've been really trying to clean up a little bit on administrative leave, which is basically staff who are on paid administrative leave due to incidents such as something with another staff member or something that has happened outside that they had to be placed on there. So currently we were able to clear probably within the last 3 weeks 48 cases, which has helped tremendously for that. And that really is thanks to the board giving additional staff, and that it relieves the investigator and coordinators to do more work because we have other people on staff to work on those cases. And the next steps, what we would like to do is just to continue to work on the corrective actions for the Office of the Inspector General. We also want to build the new case management system that we've been working on. Does not mean we're not putting our cases in, but this is a new upgraded case system that we're trying to get by June 30th, 2024. That will be, that we're not missing anything, which we're not, but it's just taking longer because the system that we're currently in FileMaker's, it's antiquated. So, and then also upgrading standard operating procedures in the Department of Compliance Investigations so that we can write things down. A lot of times in Montgomery County Public Schools, we have people who've been here for a long time and everything is in their mind. And then when they go, it's kind of like, it's not written down. Or sometimes it is written down, but it might be another process. So we just need to get better at putting things down and placing things so that when anyone comes in and steps in, that they're able to hit the ground running and not scrounging for certain things. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Johnson.
So with this, members of the board and Ms. Silvestri, we can address any questions or concerns that you have, or any comments.
Thank you. If we could get the dashboard back up, the website, please.
Sure, MCPS-TV, if you could put the computer back on the screen, please.
I want the public to really understand our progress. So I'm going to go recommendation by recommendation, and I want you to please explain what progress we have made. And I see that there's some things that are at the bottom, and not everything is next to the recommendations. So I want the public, for example, the board policy work is at the bottom. So I just want to reiterate where things are so that people have a good understanding of what progress we have made. So recommendation number 1, we recommend the board draft and implement a comprehensive policy and MCPS issue aligned regulations and procedures regarding the receipt and processing of employee misconduct complaints to include requirement to maintain a centralized searchable database of all complaints with enough detail to enable the identification of patterns of misconduct and repeat offenders. What have we done to fulfill that recommendation? Could someone turn off their lights, please?
So that is one of the things that Dr. Harris talked about, and that is getting a new case management system. And so once we have a new case management system, we will be able to document all of that information that's in the recommendation. I need to note again that once that is in place, and we hope that will be in place by June 30th, we will then have the Office of the Inspector General come over to us in one of the meetings I have with them every other week, look at that particular system to make sure it meets the recommendations that they've made. So that is still in progress because the technology team is working with DCI to get the appropriate information in place so that we can do exactly what they're asking us to do in that recommendation, and we will get clearance from the Office of Inspector General once that's been done.
So I would like to see is better alignment between our actions, what you just explained, and the recommendation. The actions that are listed here, I don't see that they speak to recommendation number 1. Those are great things that we have done, but am I missing something? Why are those actions aligned with this recommendation?
So these are aligned to this recommendation with the,
Can someone turn off their lights, please? Oh,
with the exception of the policy. So the community of practice just finished, and the policy committee will have their recommendations, and so there will be a policy developed, but we just finished the community of practice. So when we've started that, it will be up there.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah.
So,
I understand what you just said.
I'm sorry. The community of practice has completed, and they have recommendations for the policy. So now that'll go to the policy committee so we can develop the draft that is addressed in recommendation number 1.
And Ms. Key, can you identify those policies for Ms. Mondrosky so that she will know which policies they are?
Are those later down further on the website?
In terms of the board policy?
Yes.
Yes. Let me go straight to the bottom and show you what it says. I can read it to you if you like. New appointments policy to be created and in place by the end of the school year. The writing team will prepare a preliminary draft policy for consideration by district leaders who will Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. The writing team will prepare a preliminary draft policy for consideration by district leaders who will recommend a draft to the Board of Education Policy Management Committee. The draft will substantially re-envision and rename former board policy GEA, appointment of professional personnel, that was rescinded in 2005. The draft will guide the board's role in the appointment of key leaders in MCPS, identify personnel positions subject to board appointment upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, and establish timelines and criteria for information to be included in the superintendent of schools' recommendations for board appointment. There are a series of bullets underneath that.
So which policy addresses recommendation number 1 about receipt, evaluation, and tracking of disposition of complaints?
I was wondering the same thing.
And if we haven't,
There is no policy to date yet to address, I mean, there has been no review of the policy, of any of the policies that we have that address that particular recommendation. And that's one of the questions I'll have for them next week. Are we to establish a new policy, or are we to look at a current policy and make the necessary changes and adjustments to it in order to meet the recommendations that they've made?
Mrs. Mondrosky, do you concur with that? Is that aligned with what you know as the chair?
I mean, yeah, I thought we were already in the process of writing up the new policy. So that's my mistake, I guess. I think that, you know, we did do the policy that you were referring to, and it's out for public comment. I think today or tomorrow's the last day for public comment, and then that will be coming back to the policy committee. But I do, you know, I'm open to hearing the position or the perspective of my colleagues, but I think that including something that is as specific as what the IG requested would involve a new policy, in my opinion. And, you know, even putting together the way that we're going to be tracking and disposing of complaints and monitoring repeat situations and things like that. I know you read on there June, but I would hope it doesn't seem. My sister offered to do it for free if we want.
So to that very point, as your committee does the work, and I check with the Office of General Counsel, Ms. Davis, if that timeline changes, I need to reflect that on the website.
Yeah.
Yep. I did want to add one small thing as you discuss alignment of those actions. Dr. Johnson, these words were exactly from the report that was shared in that timely report that you share with the Inspector General's office.
Yes, yes, it was included, and we have discussed that. I've discussed that with the Office of the Inspector General. Some of the actions they agree with, and some of the actions they said, well, maybe you all need to change some things. So as we continue to work with them, we'll be making changes to the actions in order to move towards progress. And that's one of the reasons why I meet with them on such a regular basis.
That's the community practice.
No, that's the Office of the Inspector General.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes.
I want to follow up on Ms. Silvestri's question, and I don't want you to get alarmed because it would change the look of this, but I'm wondering, all of that policy stuff is directly connected to the actions up top. I'm kind of wondering, and I think this is what she's having difficulty with, why isn't that up there at the top next to the recommendation?
So I think it's very valuable feedback.
I just think I think that's what she was trying to get at, and I didn't see it until she said it.
Struggling with the microphone, I apologize for that.
All right, everybody has theirs on.
So absolutely, thank you for that. So that's the kind of feedback that you absolutely use when developing, adjusting, and growing any website. We'll examine it for that very concern. If you were missing a connection as you viewed the content, then we need to address that. Yeah.
Also, I was wondering, I just have two other questions. You talked about training, and I might have missed it because I did go out. I was so cold to get some coffee. Did you talk about the qualifications of the people doing the training?
That's one of my questions. Yes, I'll go back to it.
If I missed it.
No, you didn't. I'll go back to it. I said, under the leadership of Maurice Need, who is recognized in the education industry as a lawyer who helps school districts, independent schools, educational institutions, and educational companies solve their most complex problems. She regularly provides in-depth training on workplace bullying and sexual harassment, ensuring that districts know how to act on such allegations. MCPS convened a team to work with her that included Stephanie Williams, General Counsel, Stacy Ormsby, Attorney, Greg Edmondson, Director, Student Welfare and Compliance, and Heather Dublinsky, Executive Director in the Office of the Chief Operating Officer. The team has provided training to 745 of the 920 administrators in MCPS.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but I was also wondering, I mean, I've heard who worked on this inside, these four walls here, but did we talk to our teachers, our principals, and members of the public about this and how we set it up and what we're doing and get input and feedback?
I wasn't part of that committee, so I can't answer that question, but we can get the answer to that question.
And I think it should be noted one of the things that we were trying to do is to meet the spirit of cooperation with the Office of the Inspector General to get the training done as quickly as possible. So members of the department have also asked that we look at, when I say department, I mean Department of Compliance and Investigations, they've also asked us to look at the possibility of bringing in outside and external trainers to do some of this training beyond what has been done with the group that is currently doing the training. I'm going to the training my day is on Monday, so I'll be at the training on Monday, so I'll have an opportunity to see exactly what's been done. But so far, we've gotten very positive feedback from the administrators that have participated in the training. But to your point, Ms. Wolf, we do think in order to have credibility with the public and to have credibility with the Office of the Inspector General, that we probably need to bring in outside consultants and outside resources, not only to the department, but to MCPS, so that we can do another level of training for others that is not organized and not developed by MCPS.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody who is a constituent of ours, teachers, staff, parents, everybody has had some time to provide input into what we're doing. And that's what I'm not hearing in this report.
Williams has something to say.
I can tell you that that staff did interface with various PLCs and met with teachers, administrators at all levels in the development, if that's your question, before the training was developed, and they sought information about both the content and the format for the training. So all of that was done before we finished the design of the training and certainly the presentation. I'm sorry. Oh, Heather's back. Heather was on part of the team that met with folks. She wasn't here when I stepped down. She actually did it. So she may have more information, but that work was done in advance of the presentation, development of the presentation.
Okay, but what about the corrective actions progress report itself? Did you get input from people who are actually affected by some of the things that we've been talking about as part of the investigation?
Can someone turn off? There it is. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'll turn it.
So that's what you mean, on the effectiveness of the website. Did we get feedback on that? No, we moved so quickly to stand up the website that was really only socialized through my office, getting feedback from my colleagues. So that's something we can certainly do, even to go so far as to put a feedback form on the website if we find that would be necessary.
I think it would be a good idea. I'd like to hear from my fellow board members. Thank you.
Could you scroll down? I just want to see that we wrapped up this recommendation. So we gave feedback that because this is a policy recommendation, the policy action should be next to it. And Mrs. Mondrowski said that we have begun work on a comprehensive policy. Just want to clarify that.
We have begun work on the appointments process aspect of things and the board's role in it. We have not started the appointment. We've started that GEA. We have not started the comprehensive written policy. The evaluation, tracking, and disposition of complaints, which I would imagine.
Do you have a timeline for that?
I was hoping that that, as well as a couple others, that I have asked our staff to pull for policy management, which would be the student and the staff code of conducts, as well as our what's the name of our discipline policy?
Employee code of conduct.
Right, there's that, right? And then we have an actual policy. NCA?
Policy ACA, and also student rights and responsibility.
Right. So I have asked that those policies be pulled. We can go through, make sure that everything's in place that needs to be in those, and start a new policy if we need to, which I'm hoping, like I said, we'll find spots for the next policy committee meeting.
Ms. Webb, you wanted to add?
I just want to add that some of that work that the IG has asked for is tied to the work that comes out of the reimagination of DCI, how the complaints are tracked, because there'll have to be an accompanying regulation that gives some level of specificity to how they're tracking. So once the case management system is up, we'll be able to have that level of specificity to write a regulation.
Okay, thank you. Recommendation number 2, I think you kind of outlined the action steps there, waiting for the community practice work group is done or is not done? It is done. Okay, so you're moving forward with that. And I like that you have a time frame, summer 2024. Recommendation number 3, another policy, how investigations should be conducted and results documented by a Department of Compliance investigation. So do we cover that one yet, or? Go ahead.
Yes, we did cover that in the work that Dr. Harris talked about, that they are getting ready to do with their standard operating procedures. Yep. They're getting ready to draft standard operating procedures for the process. And then once we get approval from the Office of the Inspector General, then we can move those over into the green area from in progress.
Ms. Webb, you wanted to add?
And move them over to the Policy Management Committee. So that's.
Explain that.
So that would be also a part of the writing of the comprehensive policy and regulations to come out of it. So they're all kind of in alignment, dependent on one another to do. So once the IG has signed off on the case management, and then we can write the regulations, because they'll be based on the approved process.
You said
I have confused you. I'm so sorry.
regulations, and I'm talking policy. So
Yes, but generally, so policy is the big, but you really are going to need accompanying regulations with all of this that has a level of specificity that is dependent on having a clear understanding of what the case management system is going to be.
Okay. Yes, Mr.
And because that work occurs in stages, you don't want to report that it's begun, and then at the end, we'll reflect on the website as I confer with Ms. Davis and the General Counsel's office to make sure that the progress of the work is represented on the webpage.
You scroll down to number 4.
Yes.
MCPS undertake an effort to evaluate DCI's role in the organization, assess staffing and training needs, and implement stricter oversight. So what has been done there?
So one of the things that we are doing now is looking at a reorganization of DCI and how we do our work in that particular area. And so we have, as we have reported to the board before, in other arenas, we are looking at bringing in additional staff with professional and expertise knowledge around training, around investigations, and that should happen in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And the RFP that's listed there, what is that for?
That was the RFP that the board requested. We sent it out. It came back with extremely high costs. So we tailored it significantly, and we received some additional high costs. So we're going to have to take that to Dr. Felder upon her return. The lowest was $200,000 all the way up to $800,000.
Okay, then that was just to help us align it with best practices. Okay. The next one, revisit and evaluate the previous findings and recommendations related to DCI and implement solutions based on the different reports that we've had throughout the years. So what are we doing about that? We have looked through those reports to find the recommendations?
Yes. Mr. Cram, if you could go down to the other area, the independent corrective actions. So that's the area that they're talking about from previous reports that were a part of their investigation and what we did, what MCPS has done. Yes, additional internal recommendations and what MCPS is doing or will do to address those issues that were in those various reports. There were 2 ancillary reports in addition to the recommendations and findings from the Office of the Inspector General. And so we're looking at each of these situation by situation by situation to determine what we can do in order to move that status over to green. And once the office is fully staffed and operational, they will be tackling those issues and coming up with standard operating procedures and other information to address those recommendations. Some of them can be addressed, and some of them may not be addressed and may not be as easily addressed, and that's one of the reasons why when I meet with the OIG's office, we can talk about some these. We just put the recommendations there, but some of them they may allow us to take off.
Okay. And you mentioned staffing, that the board allocated additional staffing, but I want you to clarify, because we do have a budget request for DCI staffing. So if you help me understand the current staffing current staffing situation in the office and why you are requesting the additional staffing that's in the budget for FY25.
So what we've done is we repurposed staffing to bring on 2 additional people into the office, and then we've used the current staffing that we have to bring on the investigators. There is a request for an additional $500,000 in the budget that we really have to look at to determine if that is going to be possible, if all of that is going to be possible. That's a decision I think that the board is going to have to make when they're making considerations around the FY25 budget. But I think probably one of the biggest costs, and Dr. Harris, you may be able to address this, one of the biggest costs may be the case management system. Or is that currently in the FY24 budget, or is that FY25?
Actually, it's for 3 years. It covers 3 years. So, but it does not, so for example, we're going through it now. We're not having them come here because we can do it through Zoom. So we're trying to save cost on that. But it was for a budget of 3 years at $75,000. Well, the whole $75,000 for 3 years.
So clarification, you're saying it would take 3 years to put it?
No, just 3 years that they gave us that we had for the cost to get done, but
Gotcha.
continue. But we know there's going to be an incurring cost for after the 3 years.
Okay.
And there will probably be a need to make some adjustments to it over the cost of each, year, depending upon our situations and circumstances.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump in. You know us, we've done a lot of good work in a short amount of time. But some people will think that from the time that all this started, that we should be further along, right? And then, so I'm gonna go back to what I think a lot of people want to know on the back end. Talk about, in terms of when you first file the complaint until it's resolved, has that timeline changed at all? Can people expect that there's been a change? And then also talk about whether you do it anonymous or you file it just straight through, how you get informed where you're at in progress, at a standstill, or complete. Do that for me. That's what people really want to know.
And what kind of support you're providing to people as they're going through that whole process?
I just want to say each time someone calls in either a complaint, because they can do it in a variety of ways. They can use the form, they can use an email, they can call it in. We want to make sure that we have a touch point for each person. So what happens is sometimes if someone calls in a complaint, within that week, we try to get someone to call them to say, okay, well, first, if it's a workplace bullying, it might not be for the compliance investigation. It could be resolved at school. So it's about first finding out where we are with that case. Some cases can be very quick. Some cases take long, but what we're trying to do is a touch point each week when cases do come in or complaints to say somebody's going to work on your complaint, or you will hear something from someone by the end of the week.
Is that a change in process?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because we still want, this has created a lot of distrust, right? And we want people to know that when they file, however they file, that we will be back in touch with them and that we are handling this in a different way. So I do agree with Ms. Wolf that we have to find a way to pull in the community so that they can feel like what they see is enough and it'll work for them, particularly our staff. So I do like the idea of putting a form on the website. We got to make sure we let people know that that form is now on there, right? So Mr. Cram, you did the search, and when you did the search and you put in corrective, it came down like third, or it didn't really come up. How do we get it so that it's the first thing people see? The form, the website. I don't want to say dashboard, because when I hear dashboard, I'm thinking that if Shepard has a complaint and I go file it, that I can go on that dashboard and see where my complaint is, and I know that that's more personal, detailed information that we won't be putting it out to the public. I am aware of that, but that word for me makes me think I can see some of the information that I actually don't have.
I know this should work because I put this in place. I had to clear the cache on this computer while we were in the presentation. Yeah. So typing it in now and hitting return
comes up first?
It did a moment ago. Because I had it on screen ready to show you again.
Yeah. But you can't fix that. Is that an easy fix? I
It's on
think
the
as important as this is. Yeah, but people may not look at that. Like you said, if it has to be 100%.
No, there needs to be a variety of ways for anybody to find any information.
Sure.
And we realized, it was working just a moment ago.
Just remind the public, as you brought up, Mrs. Evans, this is not a place to look for individual complaints. This is a tool to show the community the progress that we are making to meet the OIG's recommendations for corrective action. This is what this is.
But that does not mean that people won't still think that they can go out and see information. They actually cannot. That's why I wanted to clarify that this is not what that is for. But when you file a complaint, whether it's anonymous or you do it the way where you submit it and people know that there will be a touch point quicker and on a regular basis until it's resolved.
Correct. And also, Mr. Cram, if you hit the report fraud, waste, and abuse harassment, the Inspector General did come and said this was a great way also. The same thing where we showed you the 4. There's also other ones on here because a lot of times people don't even know where to turn in their complaint. They automatically go, to one place. But this actually shows the form. It gives you more information. So sometimes they want to do a complaint because a tree fell down. Well, that's not going to be compliance investigation. But there is a way that you could do that. And I think the community just need to know also where they can put a complaint in because sometimes they were frustrated by the time they got to us. They were frustrated. So I think it's just more of it was laid out for the community. And that this has been a great place that is just a button that you can hit and see all of them, including the Inspector General if they want to make that, because it does come back to us as well, too.
And this webpage that Dr. Harris had me bring up is found via this red button, which you can see on the top right of the page. And being in the header of our website, that's on every page on our website.
Oh, very good, because that's new, right? That wasn't there.
It's been there for a couple.
It's been there for a little while. And
I mean, like new for it since.
No, new within the last few months. That's certainly true.
Right.
And we have written to staff about that in previous communications.
Mrs. Modrowski.
Yeah, not sure exactly how I want to start all this. So one of my biggest concerns really has been how long some of these investigations are taking and, how much money we're spending as a system on putting people on administrative leave while we do an investigation that takes what I think seems like a really, really long time. And one of the things that when we were at the county council, I felt like I was a little bit struck by was how few experts we sort of had in that area. And I personally believe there are different types of experts. We've got some, Mr. Blinsky, I think, who's worked in compliance for a decade maybe, and or more. And we've got people who have, come from the police department, as you mentioned. So there are all kinds of different qualifications, I understand, or experts. But what are we doing to address making sure that we've got the proper people in there and that they're able to get this work done in a timely and efficient and personable manner so that we can address some of those issues. And along with that, sort of I know that there's 2 directors positions, I think it's 2 directors positions that are still open. And I'm curious what we're doing in terms of when we're anticipating those will be filled, permanently.
We do have a director too, and I can say who, or you'd rather? Mr. James Kutos, who is a retiree from the district. He knows the district well, been an administrator in the district, also was president of MCAP, so has been on that side of investigations. And he's here to run the office and restore better communication with the principals and the other administrators in the district seeking assistance from us, teachers. He is gifted in being able to communicate. Then we have Miss Jessica Boone, who is an attorney who is certified to provide Title IX training, Title VII training, workplace bullying, harassment. She comes to us with all these skills in place. She knows how to stand up a monitoring caseload system, so she'll have input on that. And she comes with a wealth of knowledge of SOPs.
But they're not permanent people, are they?
No, she is a TPT until the position is available, July 1. Then she can apply for it. And Mr. Koutsos is TPTing in the Director 2 position until June of 2025.
Okay, I was just curious why we would go that route over putting in someone permanently as soon as possible for the consistency of not having to go through one more turnover of leadership and operations there. And, you know, everyone brings their own way of doing things. So I think MCPS has had enough of the
So I think one of the things that we have to understand is that I'm one of them. While there are some benefits to having permanent employees, there are also benefits to having TPTs who have an institutional knowledge of the district and how the district works. Sometimes when you bring in brand new people who are not familiar with MCPS, not familiar with policies, not familiar with the principles, not familiar with how teachers can make reports and so forth, it takes much longer to get them up and trained in order to be able to work with our schools and work with our staff. So in this case, bringing Mr. Koutsos in, who has that experience, and bringing someone from the outside in as a TPT to give them an opportunity to really understand the program, work with the program, and work with a seasoned and veteran administrator that the principals will trust because of his relationship with them as the former president of MCAP, we think will give us an opportunity to strengthen the department and move towards a more permanent solution in the future as far as the staffing is concerned. Does that address your question, Ms. Mandrowski?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't know that there's going to be a good answer to my, but so going back though to what are we doing to make sure investigations are moving along? What are you,
So
I hear things like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks.
I do want to, before Dr. Harris talks to you about that, I do want to give kudos to her because she's been doing this work in that office for the last 3 weeks. I'm going to have her give you some numbers on what she has done and how she handles those cases, but she has done an awful lot of work. She has brought the team together. She has coalesced them around this issue of getting things done in a timely manner, and she set the office up for the folks that are coming in to be able to move forward with doing exactly what you said, and that's getting the investigations done in a timely manner. So, Dr. Harris.
Ms. Androsky, I know you said about the training. Even though I've just been in there 3 weeks, a lot of these people have been in there for quite some time. Even the TPT, even though they just came in, they know how to investigate. So that really has helped tremendously. So I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't say Amy, Neil, Jesse, Eric, Oscar, Sean, Aniqua, Khalid, and Kimberly all have been putting work in. I think the issue is that some of these cases just haven't been, they were there and done, but they just had not been completed or pushed forward to say yes or no. And I really think it just needs a direction of a director to say, okay, this is okay to do, this is not okay to do. So we really took the time to say, okay, let's look at the list. What do we have? We need to be current because there were some people on there that were before this year. I can tell you that we do not have any from last year for administrative leave or anything. We were just trying to get things ready. The system that we have does work. The only thing it does not have is to kind of do the patterns, of the same repeats, unless you sit there and manipulate and things like that. And that takes too long, and that's antiquated. And that's why we really wanted this new case management system to be able to say, when we put something in, oh, this person has been there 3 times, instead of looking in a different folder from 3 years ago, because we don't have the time to do that. Also, it has Title IX, which usually is the Student Welfare and Compliance Office, and it speaks to one another so that if Title IX comes along, we have that information and it's already there. So the training, they definitely need and want the training as well, just to build upon. Like I said, we had a sheriff, we have law, people who are lawyers, have done attorney work or in an office of general counsel. We have school-based that does the accommodation. So there's different things that they want to do, and that money that's been given to us, we're currently looking at training for them. So like I said, I can give you numbers. For administrative leave, we were currently at 88. We're now at 40. Because a lot of those decisions, it was just sitting there. We just had to make a decision or place them in a school. For sexual harassment and workplace bullying, there was 17 and 114. So with just those cases alone, we had 157 closed, along with the 48. Currently, though, still, we have, together with administrative leave, the sexual harassment, and workplace bullying, 171 cases currently at this time that we're working on.
That's great. Well, I don't want to take up too much more time with it. We've discussed it before as well. I did just want to take a minute to say thank you very much to you for stepping in, filling this role, as Mr. Johnson, or Dr. Johnson mentioned that, it wasn't an easy thing, and being under all the pressure that we're all under to make sure that this is done and it's done right. I very much appreciate it. I also am very grateful to Ms. Stephanie Williams, Heather Dublinsky, and Greg Edmondson for their, what I would imagine is an unbelievable amount of extra time on this on top of our other duties. And Mr. Hall, thank you for working and partnering with all of that. This is really important, and it's going across different offices, different aspects, whether it be policies or implementations or whatever. And I just want to make sure we get it right. So,
and Ms. Mondrassi, I do want to say you did bring up Ms. Williams. The Office of General Counsel has been great. We've been partnering together because we do have disciplinary hearings that we do need to get completed, and they've been gracious to dedicate a day, 1 day per week, so that we can get that done, which helps us so that we're not all over the place. So I just want to say on the record that Office of General Counsel has been great, because I know they have a couple of spots that they have to fill, but she's made it a priority to help us out with that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I'm hearing the process will be quicker because the attention you're putting to it, the additional staff, and the coordination. Thank you.
Correct.
Mrs. Harris. Ms. Harris.
You know what I'm going to say? Can we make sure that the Stronger Student app is specifically identified in here for students, especially if they click that big red button up there that says report, that this be listed as a mechanism they can use to report instead of making a phone call or clicking on the online form, but using this resource.
I think that's an excellent idea.
And then just a question. So on finding 4, and you were talking, Ms. Key, about putting out an RFP to get someone to come in and help us analyze our processes and make recommendations. That they were quite expensive. But I do just want to note, what came to light because of the Inspector General's investigation was the fact that in late January 21, early January 22, late December 21, early January 22, there was a wholesale assessment and analysis of the Department of Compliance and Investigation that was being done. And if you scroll all the way down to this resource, this web page, all of the recommendations and things that were contained in there, which are specifically cited by the Inspector General, are outlined here, including the resources that were being cited in that report. Now, that report, nothing ever happened to it when it was apparently completed. None of the actions recommended here were taken. The board was never made aware that this work had been done, but it's out here now. And when I look at this, I just wonder what this, between $200,000 and $800,000 RFP would do for us is not already been done for us in these recommendations.
We agree with you wholeheartedly. The report that was done, the audit that was done gave us great guidelines. It had specific information for job descriptions. It had information about how the office should be structured. And so those are the kinds of things that we've been implementing along the way. as we were working with the Office of the Inspector General, because that report was very thorough.
Very good.
Yeah.
It was very good. And I did, one of the things here was noting also that the work of a Department of Compliance and Investigation should not be viewed solely as responding to, but should be viewed largely as, and this was cited as an industry best practice, creating a culture throughout the organization in which prevents these kinds of incidents. And so I just, I'm not sure we need to spend that money, because I think this was world class.
Well, Dr. Felder has decided that we're not going to spend that kind of money. And I think in addition to looking at DCI, we also had in the RFP looking at the structure of central office as well. So it was a two-prong RFP, and when the figure came back, she decided that it was not, we would not be fiscally responsible, and we didn't have the money to do it. So we need to look at other ways in which we could make the necessary adjustments, not only in the organization of central office, but also looking at the review of DCI.
Thank you.
Ms. Rivera-Oven?
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I think one of the biggest caveats that we had was the lack of expertise in that office for years. And I'm happy that we're moving in the right direction. But I just want to make sure that the folks that we do hire permanently have the expertise, especially when it comes to Title IX, but not just doing Title IX just for staff, but also the protections of Title IX for our students. Because Title IX covers not just the staff in the building, but it covers everybody in the building, including our students. So to have people that have those kind of expertise, and I know that the Department of Education this month released a report that they actually reviewed for over the last couple of years cases on to strengthen some of the provisions on Title IX, and it's going to be requiring by federal law systems, especially the education, like us, like MCPS, to actually apply those regulations in a manner that is effective and in a manner that is equitable, and in a manner that we do have the folks and the expertise, because it's not just MCPS that has dealt with this issue, but it's other large, from not just public schools, but to community colleges and to private schools and so on. And to have that Title IX expertise, to me, is non-negotiable. And to have somebody that has that experience or this expertise, like I said again, not just with staff, but with the whole community, is also vital. So I hope whoever comes in, they read the report, they regulate. And then I want to echo my colleagues' comments about this investigations taking so long, because I know I hear it from principals who have had staff who have been on leave for so long, and the students are asking and the parents are asking, and we want those folks back once, because like you said, if they're just sitting in somebody's desk and nobody's really wanted to make a decision, that is troublesome to me, because somebody needs to make a decision, right? So I look forward to having those reports, and I think making sure that our folks who work for MCPS and our students and everybody feels that this is something that they can actually be able to connect with, and that they are heard, and that there can be follow-up, and that this doesn't just go into somewhere in the abyss like they felt like it did before.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, thank you all for the tremendous work that you have done, the attention to details, looking at each finding, each recommendation, and address each one of them. and for you to step up into this position and try to move the timeline along. Because whenever somebody's on administrative leave, we're still paying them and we're paying us up. So that money is double, right? So I just remind me a little bit, because all this work and the purpose of this work is that we want to establish that we are a school system that value every single employee, and that we do not tolerate harassment, bullying, and any kind of intimidation or so just help me see what are some steps besides investigation that we are doing, or things we are doing, to create that culture?
From my perspective, Ms. Yang, the bullying, sexual harassment training has really given clear definition to what those behaviors are, so that we are, as a system, are better prepared to identify and then report. So I think that's a huge message. And when it can go beyond administrators and get out into the schools where the teachers and other SEIU staff are, then we as a system will understand the gravity of those kinds of complaints and how we stop it from happening in our system.
And recognizing that in the communications that we do with both staff and the community, recognizing maybe what needs improvement and connecting that to exactly the values that you're talking about. We know that transparency, honesty, and correct response to complaints is part of earning back that trust.
Okay. And I'm glad to hear that, because the board this year has 4 priorities. One of them is recruit and retain our staff. And under that, we have some bullet point. And one of it is we want to become a school system that have a structure that can facilitate a healthy conversation among our people, between the administration and the staff, and among our staff, right? We want to create some kind of structure that these kind of communication can happen, so that we will create a culture of trust, a culture of community. So that is very easy to say, but very hard to do. And so I would like to see in the coming months and years that there are concrete steps, that things doesn't have to escalate into a complaint, a formal complaint, that in our being as colleagues, that we have a structure and we have ways to address issues as they come up.
So I would like to add that I think there are a number of ways. We have started with the administrators first, and as Dr. Harris said, or as Ms. Key said, there are over 700 administrators that have been trained. But we also know that we do need to take this down to the teacher level. So one of the things that we can do is look at ways in which we could create some type of information and training for our teachers. I'm specifically sitting here thinking about our new education orientation. That would be a good place to begin that process. And then if we start training all of our new educators, then it'll filter into the schools. And then we have to find ways and funding and so forth to begin to train our other teachers and our other staff members. But as you know, it's going to take funding and it's going to take time. But I think there's some things that we can start right away within the next 6 months as we get ready to start the 24-25 school year that can make a difference. And I think one of the first things that's made a difference is the training of the administrators, because now they understand exactly what this is and exactly what they must do, because remember, they're going, in many cases, they're going to be the first line of communication, even before some of the staff members anonymously report or go to the red button and report. Many of them are going to go to the administrator first, one of their administrators first, and report. So the fact that we've given them the training first will help, but we do need to make sure that the training moves to all of our staff members eventually, but that's going to take some time and funding.
I want to conclude the presentation. Thank you for your hard work on this endeavor. We do need staff in the office, permanent staff. I know we've been using temporary part-time staff to do the work that you have done, but that's why it's in our budget for the upcoming year, and we need to build the capacity of this office so that they can do a good job. I think Dr. Johnson mentioned that the progress, the yellows, that doesn't turn to completed until the OIG says it's completed. So even though we may have some things that we did finish, but until we get her seal of approval, it won't turn green, and you meet with them regularly to share
My next
progress.
meeting with them is Monday.
And I just wanted to reiterate our feedback tonight in terms of making sure that the recommendation, that your actions, you shared a lot more today, Dr. Johnson, than what is on there, the actions. So again, this is for the public. They should not have to watch this meeting to understand the actions taken. So please go back and look at the recommendations and make sure that everything that you've shared tonight in terms of our actions are in the action section. And if you know, I know it can get cumbersome to add everything, but at least say, see here or link here for the policy that's going to take them down to the bottom of the webpage, so they don't have to get lost in scrolling. Everything should be aligned next to each recommendation.
That's very important because it is a very large webpage.
Yes. Okay. So with that, thank you for your work, and there's lots of work still to do, but we are committed as a board to making sure that these recommendations get implemented with fidelity in a timely basis, and working with our OIG to accomplish that, and of course, all our staff. Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to our next agenda item, item number 8, policies. The policy to review today, Mrs. Mondrowski.
Yep, so I'm going to try and expedite this a little bit, if that's okay, and just give a general overall. On February 27th, the board's Policy Management Committee reviewed the public comments that came in. So, well, let me start off by saying we're here to talk about and take, hopefully, final action on policy IJA, school counseling programs and services. In April, on the 20th, the Board of Education tentatively adopted a revised draft of policy IJA, and we agreed to send it out for public comments. It went through that time period, and on February 27th, the Policy Management Committee reviewed the public comments, of which there were many. And I appreciate everybody's feedback and input. And so today we're here to discuss the changes that were made based on the public comments, and hopefully, like I said, take final action on the policy. In considering the public comments that were received in the Policy Management Committee's review, a lot of the revisions that have been made kind of reflect some of the followings. The change in the name of the policy to social, emotional, and mental health programming services for students, an emphasis on the educational mission of MCPS, an affirmation of the importance of students and families having access to reliable and caring sources of support in times of worry, concern, or crisis, alignment with policy COA, which is student well-being and school safety, a commitment to research-informed social-emotional learning programs, and appropriate parent-guardian consultation regarding targeted and intensive supports. And so with that, I'll turn it over to staff to go over any specifics that you might have so we can vote.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm standing in for my team members who had a conflict tonight. I hope I can do justice to their very hard work. So joining me at the table is Mrs. Stephanie Hord-Wallace, who is a supervisor of social work, Department of Student Engagement, Behavioral Health, and Academics, who has been one of our participants in the writing team for this policy. I will be presenting the changes the writing team is recommending in response to the public comments that we received over the last several weeks. But first, I'm going to ask Ms. Hord-Wallace to provide an overview of the extensive engagement activities that were undertaken, as well as the comments.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I appreciate it, and good evening. So even prior to the public comment period, over 100 students, parents, and guardians and staff completed questionnaires during discussion groups that informed the initial policy drafting stage. Staff have been seeking public comment through a variety of means since April 26, 2023, tentative action. During this time, 18 outreach events occurred through text, email, and publications for staff, students, and families. The staff bulletin reaches all 25,000 staff. Memos to principals asking them to communicate through their school channels were also pushed through the public comment period to all participants. Conversations with staff, as well as activities during Mental Health Awareness Week period, provided opportunities to talk with participants in person, with over 100 participants, as well as students who watched the activities via YouTube. 122 comments were received through the public comment site. Commenters provided feedback on staffing levels and the importance of parent involvement. 9 commenters said that MCPS should maintain a focus on academics and not therapy. Ms. Williams will address more on these comments as she points out the changes made in response to the comments. Ms. Williams?
Thank you. So starting right at the top with the purpose statement, we have added some language that recommends a theme among many of the comments, which, as you see, starting at about line 15, to emphasize that the essential educational mission of MCPS is student learning and academic achievement, school attendance, and school completion. This is expanding upon, in response to the comments, we're highlighting that, those aspects of our mission, but that is also addressed in the issue section of the policy, which is at the bottom of page 1. On page 2, starting at section 1, line 39, again highlights a theme that we received in the comments that Ms. Hord-Wallace has already mentioned. And this one is specific to parents needing support in time of crisis as well. So in here we state that the board affirms the importance of students and parents/guardians having access to reliable and caring sources of support in times of worry, concern, or crisis. Near the bottom of page 3, we begin the discussion of a multi-tiered system, in that we're bringing supports to our students and their families in a progressive manner in alignment with their needs. The changes made at the section A under this subsection A under this section 3 is basically a reordering of the language that was there, so that we're starting out with an emphasis on fostering positive, respectful, orderly, and safe learning environments, and then reference alignment with the policy COA and the Be Well 365 initiative. Another area that was a theme in the comments, or another topic that was a theme in the comments, was the universal programming, for example, instruction in the MSDE curriculum, drop-in supports by counselors and so forth. And so we added some language from the comment, reflective of the feedback we received from the commenters, to indicate that this work is research-informed, school-wide social-emotional learning programs. at the top of page 5 at line 20, we move to the next level of the tiered responses, targeted student supports. And again, we add in language referencing the inclusion of parents in this process. So the supports include consultation among parents/guardians, grade level or subject area teams as appropriate. So we want to make sure we reflect the concerns of the community regarding parents. In the next tier, we talk about intensive support, and we've added, in response to the comments, coordination through the student well-being teams and educational management teams to activate available resources such as small group skills training, short-term individual or group counseling, and case management, as well as referrals to community partner agencies for individual or group therapy and support. The changes at the bottom of page 5, starting at line 143, are pretty much a reworking and clarification of the language that was already there. MCPS shall provide parents, guardians with access to student educational records entitled to in accordance with FERPA. Moving on to page 7, we've added language to make sure that the superintendent, part of the superintendent's implementation plan, we're emphasizing that it's consistent with Maryland law and board policy, and that gives us room if there are changes in the law that we don't have to go back, that we are already recognizing that need for consistency there. Also, in the reviewing and reporting section, the superintendent will recommend to the board the funding that's necessary and available to provide these supports and implement the goals of this policy. And the board, as part of its deliberation of the superintendent's recommended budget, the board will review the capacity of our programming and determine the funding available to promote the equitable and effective staffing, which will be informed by national best practices. And that concludes my highlight of the changes in response to public comments.
Great. Thank you very much for that. It looks like Mr. Said has a comment or question.
Yes, comment and a question.
Okay.
Oh, yes, perfect. So
Quickly.
yeah, quite quickly. So first, I want to thank you for this updated policy. I think that it really did address a lot of the concerns of students. I think it moved from this old framework that counselors do everything, everything related to mental health and academics and all that, to kind of making this more branched out. And reading this, I was really, I always try and look for improvements to make, and I really couldn't find many at all, because I thought this policy was incredibly comprehensive. And I had my SMOB advisory council look over, and all the recommendations that they gave are, I think, reflected in here. There's only one question I do have, which was, if you look at the comments here, pretty much all of them are about staffing ratios and whether there'd be language in the policy that's directly reflective of the need of our system to ensure that the ratios of mental health staff, whether that be counselors, school psychologists, social workers, are ensured based on the national standards. So I see here it does say to promote equitable and effective staffing informed by best practices. But what I'm seeing from a lot of the comments is I think people want more specific. To be more specific, basically, what are those best practices? And my question is, would it be possible to add in a ratio? Because I think we have national best practices now, and it's always better to be specific, and it'll give us a more clear goal. So that's just my question.
Thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be wonderful to add a ratio. However, budgeting is something that we want to make sure that we're aligning with the budget process. So on page 7, at line 209, we do highlight that the funding necessary available to be able to provide the staffing to the schools, and that the budget process would need to be aligned with the staffing levels that are set, and then also following the recommendations of the board, of the budget to the board. And we have as I mentioned, we have revised it to say that the national best practices, so we will do our best to align to it, but unfortunately, providing that specific ratio is difficult because of the budget constraints as well.
Okay, I see. So my question kind of is like, since we're already saying we're basically striving to get the best practices, and those best practices are to achieve a ratio, I mean, we don't have to say that we will 100% reach it, because if we don't have the budget, we know we don't. We know that we can't reach it. But I think it would make me more comfortable to know that we have a goal that we're trying to reach. And I think if we could express in the policy that says, basically what it's saying now, we'll do our best with the budget allocated to try and reach this. I just think it's more clear, because like I'm looking at every comment here and I'm looking at what students have told me for a very long time, which is, and we even look at testimonies during our budget hearings, that people are saying we're not meeting this ratio, we're not meeting this ratio. And so I fully agree with what you're saying, that we have to keep the budget as our first thought in mind, which is 100% true. But is it possible that we could add in language in there that basically says, when, with the funding necessary and available, like we strive to try, and like it is national best practice anyways. I just think that number gives us a clear goal, because what are the best practices? The public, I don't think off the top of their head knows that, but they can see a number and they can see what's in the schools and they can understand that. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
I'll say what I always say is, I don't like to make changes on the spur of the moment, because that's the function of the committee, is to work out. We have already gone through public comment. This is the final action for us to make a change. Now, I would send it back to committee to make that change. And so I don't think it's worth.
Want to jump in and say, what you're talking about, those things can change. So we would constantly have to be updating and making adjustments. The policy's just meant more to be like the umbrella. I guess maybe umbrella is not the best, but you know what I mean.
And we're also constantly looking at making sure we have a strategic approach to make sure that it's equitable. Not every school will need the same supports as another, so we want to make sure that we're not just looking at the number of what the ratio is, but looking at what the need is and looking at the different data points and consulting with others within the district to make sure that we're making the best decisions of where we're deploying those staff.
Okay, that is understandable. I guess if it's not the will of the board, I will pull back that comment. But thank you again for this policy. I think the policy itself is very comprehensive, and I think it covers a lot of those bases anyways. So I definitely do want to thank you for this very insightful policy, and I'm excited, hopefully if it is passed, to tell students about these changes that are coming.
Ms. Yang?
Yeah, I just want to appreciate you take into the account of the public comment on the involvement of parents. Because when we talk about the well-being of a student, it is a team effort of the school, community, and family. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? No? All right. Well, in that case, I will just read the resolve and we can take a vote. So it's resolved that the Board of Education adopt board policy IJA, social, emotional, and mental health programming services for students as updated in the attached response to public comments. And I don't need a second, so all in favor? Wonderful. It's unanimous. And we move on.
Thank you. Okay, we are almost there. We have move on to agenda item number 9, which is for informational purposes only. Agenda item number 10, could I get a motion to move 10, 1, and 2 in block?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, board members, does anyone have any new business items that they would like to bring forward?
I'm not going to do it now.
Okay, seeing none. Item 11 is from informational purposes only. Item 12, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. That's unanimous. We are adjourned.